Okay, my dudes, you know exactly what we are doing here. A real money fantasy football draft. This is not a mock draft. We do this every single night. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, but more importantly, make sure you hit the bell next to the subscribe button. That way you know when we go live. That way you can come out here to the live chat and hang out with us during this entire stream like we're about to see probably 100 people come out and do right away. Make sure you come out to this live chat. Let me send out a link in the Discord chat to make sure that everybody knows that we are live. Let me pull up the live chat and get this first link out to the first draft over there on Patreon. Y'all know exactly what we're doing by now. We're going to be talking about some 2021 fantasy football draft strategy. And what's going to be very exciting about the stream tonight is Cam Newton getting released, Mac Jones starting all 17 games for the New England Patriots this upcoming season. That's going to change some things. That's going to change how we are approaching drafts this year. That's going to change where Damian Harris, Jacoby Myers, Jonnu Smith, Mac Jones are all getting drafted. So I'm excited to go through and look at all those. So let's send this out. I just posted that link over there on Patreon for anybody who wants to get in this first draft. And then, of course, y'all know all the other links are going to get sent out in the live chat for anybody who's wanting to come out to some of the other drafts we're going to do tonight. So this first draft is just going to be a $10 league. We're definitely going to get either a $50 or a $250 draft going later tonight. Don't know what it's going to be. Depends on how many people come out to the live stream and what we can end up filling. So make sure you drop a like on the stream. If you have not already, make sure you go down there and drop that like. Okay. So now let me give a shout out to everybody who was out here to the live stream right away. And we are going to be drafting at the 107. There's one player in particular I'm really hoping that we see fall to the 107. But let's give some shout outs real quick for people coming out. Keep in mind, y'all know that the first stream really going to have all the regulars of the channel, considering the fact that, I mean, guys, the link was sent out on Patreon. So, of course, you're going to have the regulars. If you're a regular, I'm imagining that you're going through and supporting the show on Patreon. But anyway, let's check out who we have out here. Okay, so at the 101, we have Eat My Payday. This is a new name to the live stream. I do not recognize this name before. Y'all know I memorize pretty much anybody who comes out here and drafts with us. So I'm almost certain this is a new personality. We got YouTube Slayer, a regular, join the flock over there on Patreon. I want to say 2 or 3 weeks ago. We have Noah Villanoa. Obviously, I said that name incorrectly. Y'all know I am a certified idiot. He's actually been a part of the flock for a while now. JN, everybody knows that JN's been a part of the flock since last season. Senior Skittles has been part of the flock for a very long time. Post Dylan has been a part of the flock since he joined, I believe, with our Dynasty community at, I want to say, the beginning of the summer. Now, keep in mind, guys, this is all going off the top of my head, so I could be a little wrong here. Thomas edits all our videos for us. Hate drafting next to Thomas, of course. Girthquake this is Noah in the live chat. He actually made both of these beautiful signs for us. So thank you for coming out. We have got more things than you. I believe this is a new person to the live stream. Obviously not a new person to the live stream. This is a support of the show on Patreon, but a new person in one of these drafts. Scantron has been a part of the flock for a very long time. LKL Bucks for Life. I actually just got them a podcast breakdown over there on Patreon. So yeah, we got the regulars out here. Thank you all for coming out to this draft with us. I'm going to be very excited. And Barkley goes at the 104 by JN, a pick that you're not going to see very often. Derrick Henry goes to the 105. Actually, now I'm fine with either one of two players making it to us. Now, let's see where Post Dylan decides to go. He goes to Devontae Adams. I'm not joking in this format. When we know what kind of edge you actually get with the tight end, an elite tight end, if you're starting your team every single week, if you're submitting a starting lineup every week, and you do have access to the waiver wire, like you're playing in a completely traditional fantasy football draft, there I'm actually going to be going with Ezekiel Elliott and locking down the 3-down running back. But what we find is with the tight end landscape changing, I'm actually going to have to move Travis Kelce up our rankings. This is something I want to do because I've been testing out a lot of drafts earlier today. In Kelce in the first, this was a maneuver that I did not like literally just 2 weeks ago. I did not like it before the Adam Troutman, before the Irv Smith Jr. injuries. But taking those two tight ends out of the player pool of draftable guys changes a lot of things, where now I'm a lot more willing to go out and get that elite tight end Something that we could discuss maybe being a mistake is the fact that I take Kelce here at the 107 when we could have potentially had Darren Waller at the 206. So if you want to have a critique of this draft pick and saying, Mason, you should have gone Ezekiel Elliott, then you could have gotten to Darren Waller in the next round, and then you're accomplishing almost the same thing. I'll say that's probably a very good point, and that's probably something I should have considered a little more. I was just really having my heart set on getting a Travis Kelce at the 107. I mean, I just think that he is a cheat code currently on Underdog Fantasy. And now we have DeAndre Hopkins going at the 202, someone that I've actually seen falling as of late. That is intriguing. Austin Eckler goes at the 203. Okay, so Girthquake. Let's see where Girthquake goes here. I'd imagine this is probably going to end up being either Nick Chubb or DK Metcalf. So he goes Antonio Gibson. So Thomas, I have no idea where Thomas is going, guys, to be completely honest. I have no idea where Thomas is going. He takes Ezekiel Elliott. We know that Thomas is going to be someone that really gets his running backs at the top. And then from there, he's going to be slamming a ton of wide receivers afterwards. So he goes Nick Chubb. Now we're going to be down between Najee Harris or DK Metcalf. And I think that if we were playing in like the big dog or something, we're playing the very high stakes $250 drafts where we know those drafters are going to be incentivizing us to get wide receivers very early. There we're going to go with the DK Metcalf. But for a regular 12-man league, we're just going to get Najee Harris in here as our running back one. And now this is something that I want your opinion on, and I am completely willing to say that I could have potentially messed up the order that we went positionally here, where we know that we wanted to get the elite tight end. It could have easily been a mistake going Kelce in the first over Ezekiel Elliott instead of getting Darren Waller, now that we know that we could have had him guaranteed at the 206. So what would y'all prefer? Do you prefer seeing the combination of Travis Kelce and Najee Harris, or do you prefer seeing the combination of Ezekiel Elliott and Darren Waller? Because I do have my reservations with a Najee Harris here, and that this is a running back that's going to be playing behind a very bad offensive line. While yes, we know that the workload's going to be there, it's hard to shake just the fact that that offensive line is going to be so bad. Now, Joe Mixon goes to the 209. I love getting Mixon. You're going to see that I draft Joe Mixon over Najee Harris in a decent amount of leagues, but keep in mind, guys, I'm going to be playing in like 250 fantasy drafts. We have to mix our exposures. If I go over real quick and open up another tab, that way I can kind of see where we are at with Joe Mixon and Najee Harris and how many leagues that I've drafted them in so far. You'll be able to see exactly how many shares of Joe Mixon I actually have. So let's pull up Mixon. Mixon I've drafted in 11.6% of my drafts that are under $250 as the buy-in. If I pull up also the big dog, I know I've drafted Joe Mixon in 2 big dog drafts as well, and each of those drafts are actually $250 buy-in. So we have a ton of Mixon. I want to just make sure we've drafted Mixon in 2 of those leagues, and I'm not incorrect in this. Yeah, so we've drafted Joe Mixon in 2 of those. We have $500 of buy-ins just on Mixon there, and then we have Joe Mixon in. We have Mixon in a decent amount of leagues. We have over $900 of buy-ins just on Joe Mixon compared to Najee Harris, where actually with Najee Harris, I only have him in 4.8% of drafts. So that is something that maybe we need to balance out the exposure just slightly, because obviously Najee Harris, there are reasons to get excited about him. Now Kittle goes to the 301. I'm a lot more willing to go with that elite tight end here with the George Kittle based on how hard tight end's going to be to find later on in the draft. I've actually seen Kyle Pitts and Mark Andrews sneaking into like the 3rd and 4th round in these drafts earlier today. And I think that's based on people understanding that they're going to have to reach on someone like a Robert Tonyan later in the draft if they don't get that elite level tight end, which is why I really wanted to make sure that we were getting either one of Kelce, Waller. It would have been a reach to take George Kittle at the 206. Now let's switch this back over. Okay, so now when we're going to be on the clock at the 307, we're really hoping that Post Dillon here decides to go with the Terry McLaurin. Instead, he goes with the Robert Woods. And at this point, when we are desperate for a receiver, we're actually just going to have to end up bringing in Terry McLaurin. McLaurin is not someone I'm a massive fan of. If I pull up my exposures right now, I actually only have Terry McLaurin in $320 of fantasy drafts, whereas someone that I have ranked over him in a Chris Godwin, where we know we can actually get Godwin at the 3-4 turn in a lot of leagues. If I pull up my exposures with Chris Godwin, I have Godwin in a total of, I'm sorry, I have to pull up the big dog as well. I've Godwin in a total of what's 630 plus 250. I believe that's 880. So I've Godwin in double the leagues that we have Terry McLaurin in from just an entry fees perspective. So I think when we get McLaurin falling to us after Woods, after Amari, after Allen Robinson, this is going to be a player that I'm taking. My main problem with people drafting Terry McLaurin is you're going to see in a lot of drafts, he actually goes ahead of this group of receivers, which in my opinion, that's a horrendous draft pick, and you could never go that direction. But if you're getting McLaurin here after those guys, we're going to be fine with it. We have to draft a receiver here. I mean, going through and escaping the first 3 rounds without a receiver in a league that you have to start 3 of them each and every week, it's going to be very scary, and it's going to be something that I do not want to do. Now, maybe if we would have ended up having Davante Adams here at the 107, just say post Dillon decided to go with the Travis Kelce instead, then we had Davante Adams, then we could potentially look to go running back here if we decided. But no, when we don't have a receiver, we just have to. Like, there's nothing that we can do, because I promise you there are going to be a lot of receivers going off between these 2 picks. And I'll tell you right now that y'all know something that I have struggled with previously is actually drafting Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce on the same roster, where I think there is a way that we can make it work. There has to be a way that we can make it work. Now, if Patrick Mahomes falls to us in the 4th round here, I'm going to be trying it out. Because we're going to get in like a $250 draft after this. And I don't want to be in that same exact situation in a $250 league and not feel comfortable with my strategy with going with a Kelce and a Mahomes to get that Kansas City stack if it's available to us. I want to have that in our back pocket. I really want to figure out how we can make it work. But Noah here doesn't even let us have that chance. He instead takes Mahomes at the 404. So here I can almost guarantee you that at least I thought we were going to go with the receiver. Now, when DJ Moore goes off the board, now I actually think that we have to make a pivot. I really thought that we were either going to be getting Julio Jones or DJ Moore based on the previous drafts that I've done. Obviously, we're really expecting Thomas to go with the receiver here based on what we have seen him do pretty much in all these drafts leading up until this point. So I guess at this selection, we're just going to take a Chris Carson. This has been someone I haven't been drafting a ton of, to be completely honest. Like, if I pull up the amount of entry fees that I have into Chris Carson right now, it's embarrassingly low. I mean, it's at 170. So yeah, we've only drafted Carson in 4.1% of our drafts, not very often whatsoever. But I think if we're going to be getting him, probably the 406 is going to be a fine price to do so. I was hoping that we were going to get a receiver that we like falling to us in either a DJ Moore or a Julio Jones. T. Higgins would have been the other receiver I would consider in this range. DeAndre Swift, we have been lowering him down our rankings just slightly due to the groin injury. And I think in a format like this, where we know that we need points in week 1, week 2, week 3, where points in those weeks matter just as much as points at the end because there are no fantasy football playoffs, it's going to be a lot harder to advocate for drafting any players dealing with the nagging injury right now, because if they start slow, it's not something that we can just go, okay, well, it doesn't matter that much as long as they're producing by the time we get to the fantasy football playoffs. So here I actually think that we do want to go with Chris Carson. Now let's switch this back over. And guys, if you are just now joining the live stream, make sure you go down there, make sure you are dropping a like on the stream. It helps us out a ton. We're going to try to get a $250 draft going tonight. I would love to get a $250 draft going tonight. Make sure you drop a like, get us recommended to some new listeners. Y'all know we do this every single night as well. We have live streamed real money fantasy football drafts every single day for the past month. Nobody's close to doing that. So if y'all are enjoying this, please make sure y'all drop a like. And of course, guys, if you really want to support the channel, the number one way you can do so is by going through and using promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. This is where we draft every single night. This is my favorite place to draft fantasy football leagues in 2021. And honestly, beyond that as well, I mean, with Underdog Fantasy, and what's so great about it is when you make that $10 deposit with promo code FLOCK, and you can find the link in the description of the video, they're actually agreeing to sponsor our 2021 fantasy football draft guide, or if you make that $10 deposit on Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK, you're going to get $25 added to your account. You're going to get our 2021 fantasy football draft guide, our 2021 dynasty rookie draft guide, literally hundreds of pages of information. We could be selling that for like $80, $90, but instead, I mean, just makes so much more sense to make sure that this partnership with Underdog Fantasy is going well, and they decided to sponsor with it. So yes, we're giving it to y'all. Literally, we're paying you essentially $15 to take these draft guides. All you have to do is go use that promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy, and you'll get our rankings and tiers updated all the way to the start of the season as well. So make sure you go and take advantage of that. And now at this point, we are really going to be put in a difficult spot, because I think in the middle of the 5th round, we are going to be looking at some disgusting wide receivers. I am preparing y'all already when I pull up this board. The best available guys, according to ADP, are going to be players like an Odell Beckham Jr., a player like a Deebo Samuel. I mean, it's going to be something that you don't want to be coming close to. But the problem is we're going to be a lot less likely to go with that elite level quarterback when we've already passed on the wide receivers and the running backs in round 1 when we take a Travis Kelce, because in my experience, taking a Kelce makes it a lot harder to go through and fill out both your wide receiver and your running back positions whenever you do have that elite level tight end. So Odell actually goes. Ja'Marr Chase, I'm going to be a lot less interested in a format like this where we're not necessarily having the fantasy football playoffs. So this is putting us in a very difficult spot where I'm not that excited about any of the receivers in this range. If we had the fantasy football playoffs, I'd just take Ja'Marr Chase here, knowing that he could be productive at the end of the year, but I'm afraid that he's honestly going to start slow. So what we said we didn't want to do, we're going to have to do regardless. I thought we were most likely going to be drafting Odell Beckham Jr. He's not available to us. So this is going to be a very difficult draft to pull off. I do not like how this board's fallen to us. If we could go through, if we could take it back, what I would have most likely done is taken a T. Higgins over a Chris Carson. I think that would have given us slightly more flexibility here with what we could have done in the 5th round. But yeah, I think that we have to go with the Lamar. Between Lamar and Kyler, I'm completely fine with anybody going with the Kyler Murray. But a big thing is when we take Lamar Jackson, I actually think that getting a stack with that quarterback's a little less important because he's going to get the majority of his fantasy production on the ground compared to where Kyler is going to get a lot of that through the air. So instead, I think we want to be going with the Lamar, knowing that we can find stacks later on with a Hollywood Brown, with a Sammy Watkins, just get some really cheap stacks coming in. Now, I need to keep my mouth shut. Let me keep my mouth shut. But a big thing is also when we're at this selection, I think that the running backs that we're going to be trying to target in the next tier are going to be guys that we're most likely going with in the Zach Moss range. It's going to be like the round 9, 10 running backs where we're going to see the Ronald Jones, the Zach Moss. We're probably going to be slamming in a lot of wide receivers here because when we take both Najee Harris and Chris Carson earlier in this draft, it's really guaranteeing us a decent amount of just overall raw touches at the running back position, and that's what we're more so betting in on. And now when we also have a Travis Kelce and a Lamar Jackson, we are not going to be looking at drafting another quarterback or tight end until the very end of the draft. Literally, when we pull up the best available players, you're going to see me just click on running back, just click on wide receiver. Those are the only positions that we can actually consider from here on out because we're going to be playing catch up at both positions. And I will tell you right now, it is going to be a tough spot to be in, only having one wide receiver through the first 5 rounds. It's going to be very difficult. It's going to be very difficult. Okay. So Al Frazier says, man, I remember when Mason had a crappy cam streaming in his room with like 10 people watching. My boy is killing it. Keep up, bro. I only listen to your fantasy advice now. My man, thank you so much for always supporting the channel. And we're just now getting started, my man. I promise you I'm going to continue to work as much as I can for everybody here. We're going to try to get as many live streams as I can get going during the season. This is not the end of it. We're just now beginning. Now, we do have Gus Edwards going into the 603. Edwards, even though we are not necessarily looking at taking a running back, he would have been a running back that we would have considered at the 606. Most likely would have been someone that I would have wanted to bring in. But instead, I actually think that we are going to be overlooking the running back position. I know a lot of people would probably be screaming at me to go with the Mike Davis here, but with how wide receivers drying up and with how I think that we can find someone in the 7th round that we may be comfortable with, if we had either Gus Edwards, Javonte Williams, or Kareem Hunt fall to us with this pick, we would have gone with them. Instead, I actually think that we're going to take a Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd is going to be slightly more intriguing now for me. We actually did just move him up our rankings, but a big reason why we're taking Tyler Boyd at the 606 is we are looking for a player that's not necessarily going to see a lot of spike weeks. Like if you saw a team where I drafted a lot of wide receivers earlier on, what I most likely would have done with this 6th round selection is I most likely would have tried to find someone that we could see some random spike weeks from, someone like a Deebo Samuel. However, instead, when we only have Terry McLaurin so far on this team and we have to start 2 wide receivers on a weekly basis, I actually think that we're going to be looking for a receiver that can provide us a relatively high floor. And I actually think that is going to be a Tyler Boyd, especially now that when we have Ja'Marr Chase kind of struggling and not necessarily looking like he's going to be someone that is dominating targets in Cincinnati week 1. To go along with this, obviously there are some off the field concerns as of now with a Ja'Marr Chase. Nothing to just completely freak out about just because we haven't heard anything from the NFL. But that is going to make me a little more excited to draft Tyler Boyd right now. Okay. Jay Geese says, is it possible to win without stacking? Do the big dog draft. Okay, my man, I'll try to get into $250 draft. And I'll say it's 100% possible to win without stacking. I mean, I'm not sitting here and saying, oh, you can't win fantasy if you don't stack. All I'm saying is what we are trying to accomplish in every fantasy draft is we are trying to get slightly closer to having an optimal lineup, and we are trying to get slightly closer to just having an edge over our league mates. And by stacking, you increase that edge. But of course, I mean, it's possible to win any fantasy league. I'll say it's probably more likely that you get 6th place if you don't stack, and you're less likely to get either 1st or 12th. But how I play fantasy football is I don't want to finish 5th. I don't want to finish 6th. I don't want to finish 7th. Either have me finish 1st or 2nd or 11th or 12th. If I go through and if I'm, say, entering into a 250 fantasy drafts this year, which that's my goal, I'm going to be trying to be in that many leagues. My goal is to not necessarily have an average finish of 5.3 and go, okay, look, I'm slightly better than the average team. My goal is to have as many teams as possible. And this is the only thing that I care about in the top 3 in their respective leagues. If I have as many teams as possible, say out of those 250 teams, if I have 125 of those either get 1st and 2nd, and I have 125 of them get dead last, that is the best case scenario. You are just crushing, and you're going to be an extremely profitable player. So stacking is going to polarize your team just slightly and push it towards that boundaries where, yes, it lowers your floor, because if we drafted if we drafted DeAndre Hopkins in the 2nd round, then draft Kyler Murray in the 5th, if DeAndre Hopkins or Kyler Murray get hurt, then it hurts both players. Yes, it lowers your floor and you're more likely to get last place, but if they go out there and they both stay healthy and they crush, then it raises your ceiling as well. Okay, so now we are going to be back up on the clock. None of those running backs make it back to us. Honestly, I'm not too concerned about it. Someone that I was going to be expecting to look at potentially was going to be a Trey Sermon. So now instead we are going to be drafting Courtland Sutton here at the 707. So let's bring in Sutton at the 707. I know these are not sexy wide receiver picks, but it's really hard to try to chase the production at receiver. Now, something we may want to go and revisit with the decision that I made earlier in this draft is something that we did here in the 4th round, going with the Chris Carson, someone that I'm not drafting very often, but we go with the Chris Carson when we could have considered taking T. Higgins. And I think this could have been a potential mistake. Whereas if we go through, if we look at our decision of taking a Tyler Boyd at the 606, let me know what y'all prefer. Do you prefer seeing me go with the Chris Carson and Tyler Boyd? Or honestly, the running back that I may have taken here would have been potentially someone like a Mike Davis. So let me know what y'all like. Actually, I think that at this point, we're kind of fine with what we have done so far in this draft. I think there are a few 2v2s we could go through and try to look to change. But overall, I think that it's a fine construction. Now you have Logan Thomas going at the 709. And Jacob says, how much is this draft? This is just going to be a $10 warm-up draft. We try to start every single live stream just with the $10 warm-up draft. And then we can go through, we can get some serious money drafts going after that. But I want to make sure that we're warm. I want to make sure that we have a good feel for the draft board before we hop into a $250 league, because hopping into just a $250 league right away, I think we're going to make some mistakes. Like right now, y'all hear me just going through and trying to figure out, was there anything differently that I could have done to have a better draft at this point? That's how I always look at my drafts through the first one, especially if it's a $10 league. It's very easy to go through and look at it with that mindset. And then in the $250 draft after this, I'm hoping that we're going to learn some lessons and we're going to be able to apply those to our draft after this one, which honestly, I think that this has been helping us out a ton this season. Like, I don't think there's a better way for you to prepare for your 2021 fantasy football draft than just go make that $10 deposit on Underdog Fantasy, promo code FLOCK, get $25 added to your account, and then just go hop in some $3 drafts. Hop in some $3 drafts, and keep in mind, you're not having to submit the starting lineup for these teams during the season. You don't go through and do the waiver wire. It's automatically done for you. So all of that, when it's submitting your starting lineup for you at the end of the week based on your highest available players, it's going to allow you to get in a lot of these drafts and become a much better drafter for your real money drafts that you're going to be doing with your friends. Now, keep in mind, of course, these are still real money leagues where first, second, and third, they're all getting paid out on Underdog Fantasy. But in my opinion, it's by far and away the best way that you can get better at drafting. Okay, so now when we're going to be back up on the clock, like I said, we are no longer looking tight end quarterback. So at this point, I think the running backs that we'd be intrigued in, do we just take a Raheem Mostert here? Y'all know Raheem Mostert's someone I haven't been drafting at all. Like if I pull up right now, we actually have him in 4.7% of leagues. You know what? We only have 3 receivers. I think we can still continue to draft receiver. So we're actually going to end up going with we're probably going to go with either Michael Pittman or we're going to go with Michael Pittman. We're going to go with Pittman given the injury that we actually have to T.Y. Hilton. I didn't necessarily love Michael Pittman before the season started. Remember how much I was screaming to avoid Michael Pittman in drafts when this was a player getting drafted after Laviska Shenault? He has fallen considerably since that range. And also Michael Pittman, if I pull up how much we have drafted him, not very often. Let me pull it up. And we have drafted Michael Pittman, and actually we've about been average on Michael Pittman. We have him in about 8% of leagues. But here I think since T.Y. Hilton's injured, we are going to be having to move him to the top of the tier that you're seeing with these other players. Someone like a Jalen Waddle, if we were playing in a league where you actually have the fantasy football playoffs, I definitely would prefer Waddle because we think that he's going to have a lot of that production at the end of the season. Whereas that's not as important in this format because this isn't one of those public underdog leagues. It's just instead who could score the most points in this 17-week season, who can have the highest outcome, and then also with second place, third place as well. So points in week 1, they matter just as much as points in week 16. So I think that is going to lead us to take a Michael Pittman here. And when we have both Chris Carson and Najee Harris, I'm just going to be a lot less likely to draft a running back. Like Raheem Mostert, I'm trying to stay away from him as much as I can. Chimichanga says, Colin Johnson got cut. Did Colin Johnson really get cut? Are y'all kidding me? I'm looking this up right now. Please, for the love of God. How many leagues have I drafted Colin Johnson in? 5.4% of drafts. Those teams are just completely dead. Oh my God. Another thing that's just killing our season. Do you know how many big dog drafts I have drafted Colin Johnson in? 3. Oh, that is brutal. That is brutal. Let me look this up on Twitter. Let's make sure we're not getting trolled right now. That is brutal if that's true. Okay, so Waddle, Russell Gage going directly after this. Now, if we're pulling this back up, this is a big reason why we decided to end up passing on a Raheem Mostert, because if you actually look at my rankings, I actually do have Zach Moss over Raheem Mostert for 2021. So I think that we're probably more excited to get Zach Moss around later, and the receivers in this range, I mean, it's kind of whatever. I don't necessarily think they're going to be up there in the Michael Pittman tier. So we're going to go with a Zach Moss as our third running back. We're just going to continue to go running back, receiver, running back, receiver, running back, receiver for the rest of the draft. So far, this is us at the 107. We have Travis Kelce in the first, Lamar Jackson in the 5th to grab our elite tight end and our elite quarterback. And then at running back, we have Najee Harris, Chris Carson, Zach Moss. And this is a very weak team at receiver. Honestly, I'm not a massive fan with what we have done here in Terry McLaurin, Tyler Boyd, Cortland Sutton, and Michael Pittman. We're going to have to bring in 8 receivers on this team. Okay. So let me look up Colin Johnson. Jayan doesn't believe it. So I'm assuming if Jayan hasn't heard it yet, hopefully it's not true. Hopefully it's not true. They waived Colin Johnson 5 hours ago. How am I just now seeing this? How am I just now seeing this? Oh my God. How dare they? That's just ridiculous. First, they take Travis Etienne from us. Now Colin Johnson. I hate the Jags. This is my fault for drafting any Jags players in the first place. I thought they were going to be significantly better with Trevor Lawrence, and apparently Urban Meyer is going to kill this team. Apparently Urban Meyer is just driving it into the ground. Of course, Urban Meyer knows more about Colin Johnson than I do, but I really wanted Colin Johnson to be something. We had some money into Colin Johnson. It's going to be a tough season. It is going to be a very tough season. After missing Cam Akers, Travis Etienne, J.K. Dobbins, and we had very few shares of Gus Edwards and James Robinson, it's not even week 1, and I am willing to just roll over and take the L and say, this may be the first season that we lose money on fantasy football since playing with a ton of volume in 2014. This is probably, if I can break even this year, I'm going to be very happy about that. I'm going to be so happy about that. Okay, so now let's go through Jakobi Meyers, Devonta Parker. Obviously, Jakobi Meyers rising a ton with the news of Mac Jones. That cannot be overlooked. Now let's pull this back over. Okay, so Michael Carter, a perfect example of someone that I like a lot more if you're playing in a league that has the fantasy football playoffs. But if you do not have the fantasy football playoffs, not as excited with the Michael Carter. Now, it looks like this is just running back land right here. We're probably going to see a ton of running backs going off between our next two picks. But honestly, I think that we're actually probably just going to bring in Bryan Edwards here. I think Bryan Edwards does need to be moving up considerably given the vote of confidence we have seen the Las Vegas Raiders have for him. No, we have to take Melvin Gordon. We have to take Melvin Gordon. I wanted to convince myself into going Bryan Edwards. I think it would have been too much of a reach. I don't love having 4 running backs on this team. We are lacking at receiver right now. We may end up having to draft 9 receivers on this build. We may only be going with 1 tight end, 1 quarterback, 5 running backs, 9 receivers. Because, yeah, we have Zach Moss and Melvin Gordon. The value with Melvin Gordon was too much to pass up on. Like I said, I mean, Melvin Gordon is one of the perfect examples of someone that should have a lot of production at the very beginning of the season. Not much by the time we get to the fantasy football playoffs. So in a regular league, don't love Melvin Gordon, but in a league like this, I mean, I think we're fine with him. Okay. Jayan says, Jaguars are banned from me for life. I know that is horrendous. I'm sorry, Jayan. I feel your pain. My wallet feels your pain. We're just going to try to overcome it. I mean, I was literally drafting Colin Johnson on Underdog. I was drafting him probably after he got cut, to be completely honest. I was in some Underdog drafts at about, if he got cut 5 hours ago, I was drafting Colin Johnson after he got cut. Okay, so Chimichanga says, John Brown also got cut, so good choice of Edwards. Yeah, no, that's why I was considering Bryan Edwards, but a big thing is I think we're just going to have a massive running back run here based on the tier that was left available. So I think we're going to be looking at the other receivers that were still on the board with this pick right here, where I think the running backs are all going to be really dried up if you look at how the board usually goes at the end of the 10th. So I actually think that we did end up needing to go with the running back. You can make an argument to go with a couple different guys here. I mean, if it was a league where it's going to be a public league where we have the tournament at the end, there I'm probably going to go with the Michael Carter. If it's a league where we're looking for pure upside, probably a Sony Michel. If we're just going through and go, hey, can we get some points coming in the lineup? Let's just take a Melvin Gordon. Okay. Brendan says, wins the next draft. As soon as this one's done, my dudes, we're getting a lot of drafts going tonight. Just make sure you drop a like. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We got a lot of people subscribing. Let me give some shout outs. We got Robert, Choff, J Will, Alejandro. It's just Jay. Thank you all for subscribing. We got Best BV, Billy, Lee, Nick, Anthony, Brandon, Sharkio, Matthew, Sonny. Thank you all for subscribing to the channel, my dudes. Okay, Devin Singletary goes to the 1102. Mike Gesicki. Honestly, if you wait this long to get a tight end after we've just seen some tight ends in this league get decimated, I think that honestly, you're probably coming away extremely happy if you get a Robert Tonyan at the 1009, you get a Mike Gesicki at the 1103. You have to be really happy about that. Now, Ryan Tannehill at the 1104. Let's switch this back over. Okay, so we can't look QB. We can't look tight end. So, yeah, those quarterbacks look like good values. I mean, it looks like a good value to get a Joe Burrow, a Justin Fields. Honestly, we can't be going that direction, though. Okay, so let's see where Post Dillon decides to draft. He has the same exact build that we do. He has the same exact build. He has a lot more exciting wide receivers at the very top. He goes with a Joe Burrow here. I actually think what we're going to do is we're most likely going to draft Tony Pollard. But if we draft Tony Pollard, the initial construction I thought we were going for was going to be 2-6-8-2. Instead, I think we go 2-5-9-2. So let's go and let's get Tony Pollard at the 1107. Also, really don't want to have Thomas getting Pollard in the 11th. A little bit of defensive drafting here. But yeah, let's go through, and we are going to be desperate for receiver. Literally the only button that we can press and look for receivers after this. I mean, I just assumed Pollard was going to be off the board by the time we got back on the 11th. But from here on out, we're just receiver, 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 receiver. Okay, so Jay Geese says, what are the chances Colin Johnson and Breshad Perriman get on new teams? I'll say Colin Johnson, since he's young, I'd imagine he actually finds his way onto a practice squad. The chance that he ever does anything in the NFL, slim to none. I would say maybe a 1% chance that you ever see Colin Johnson in a starting lineup for a fantasy football league. A very small chance. And Breshad Perriman, I don't even know what to say here. Breshad Perriman, I think that it's hard to say that he has really any real upside considering the fact that the Lions had no incentive to move on from him. I mean, they paid that contract. They really just went out of their way to go, okay, well, you're so bad, we don't have any use for you. So I don't know. I think that Breshad Perriman also, they're not usable at all. Now, trust me, the leagues that I have Breshad Perriman and Colin Johnson in on Underdog, I would love for them to find their way onto new teams, but they're not going to be usable this year, sadly. Now, we have a far stretch of 17 picks with only 2 wide receivers going. So I'm honestly kind of happy we decided not to get suckered in to going with like the last guy in this tier and going with the Bryan Edwards at the 10:06. I actually think we made the correct decision in going running back here, as wide receiver really had no value to be found. So I really wanted to convince myself into going with a Gabriel Davis, a Cole Beasley, and Emmanuel Sanders with the 11:07 and try to get one of those players coming in that we're just going to be running a lot of routes for the Buffalo Bills. But I think we made the correct decision in going with Tony Pollard and just loading up with quantity over quality a little later on. Aroda says Josh Jacobs groin injury. Are y'all trying to ruin my night? I'm assuming you're trying to ruin my night. Let's pull this up. I don't see much on Josh Jacobs. I do not see much on Josh Jacobs right now. I'm assuming that is not true. I need to stop reading the chat. Okay, so Chuba Hubbard at the 12:04. Let's pull this back up. Now we are exclusively wide receivers. Now, of course, y'all know it looks nice to see Justin Fields making it this far. Maybe Thomas goes Justin Fields. Personally, we just have to be going receiver. And with Mac Jones starting, Nelson Agholor is going to be a whole lot more appealing. I'm excited to get him as our wide receiver 5 here. And yeah, we're not done anytime soon at receiver, but I think it's going to be a good way to start off building this room back up. Now, let me hide my screen for anybody just now coming into the live chat. And if you are just now coming into the stream, guys, make sure you go down there, drop a like, subscribe to the channel. We are doing this every single night, and use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy, which is where we draft every single night, to get our 2021 fantasy football rankings, to get our 2021 fantasy football draft guide, to get $25 added to your account, all with just a $10 deposit. So make sure you take advantage of that. And yes, we have Cole Beasley, Sterling Shepard going directly after we take Nelson Agholor at the 12:06. I don't even know what to expect from here. I mean, it's very surprising to see Justin Fields fall this far. Very surprising. Okay. Noah says he ran out of time, blaming the pick on his wife. Let's see where Noah ended up going. Okay, Chuba Hubbard. Noah, that was a pretty bad pick. That was a pretty bad pick. I mean, if you would have wanted Hubbard, of course, you could have just got him in the next round. But Noah has an excuse out here. And Noah, I'm sorry for accidentally texting you the other day asking if you and your quote-unquote girlfriend wanted to go and get dinner with me. Sorry about that, my dude. Sorry about that. Okay. So we have Goats in tow saying, Mason, my league is 0.1 points per completion. Does this change your quarterback rankings? 100%, guys. 100%. If your league transitions over to where you're getting points per completion, you need to be going for the high volume passers. Those guys like a Lamar Jackson, who I drafted in this league, way less valuable because the passing volume is not going to be there. So you need to be bumping up players that we know the passing attempts are going to be through the roof. You need to bump up a Matt Ryan, a Matthew Stafford, a Tom Brady, those stationary quarterbacks that you don't love in a 4-point passing touchdown format because they don't have the rushing upside. But all of a sudden, if you change it either a 6-point passing touchdown league or you change it to a league where you're getting points per completion for the quarterback position, you need to be changing the quarterback rankings within itself because there are different profiles of quarterback. I mean, the perfect example, we talk about this all the time on Patreon, and also I actually laid this out in depth, showing you the exact numbers behind it in our 2021 fantasy football draft guide. But the perfect example is someone like a Jalen Hurts, or the guy that we drafted, in a Lamar Jackson. In a 4-point passing touchdown format, what makes them so valuable is their rushing production is going to be able to crush what you get from a Matthew Stafford passing touchdown, from a Tom Brady passing touchdown. Because if Lamar goes out there and he averages 60 rushing yards a game, that's an extra passing touchdown and a half just added on to his stats. It's literally a cheat code. Whereas if you offset that by the time that you move it to just saying that these quarterbacks that are throwing those passing touchdowns are getting 6 points per passing touchdown, that Lamar Jackson 60 rushing yards, instead of being worth a passing touchdown and a half, it's only worth 1 passing touchdown. And that allows the pocket passing high volume guys to be able to catch up with those rushing QBs. So yeah, you need to be making adjustments, my dudes. Okay. So let me go through and we will check out the donations in just 1 second. Thank you, of course, Zach and Jaggy. Let me first look at who we're going to be drafting. And at some point, we probably have to consider going Trevor Lawrence. At some point, we probably have to consider it. Philip Lindsay goes at the 1305. Post Dillon, probably not going Lawrence. He has 2 quarterbacks already. So Lawrence is 17 picks behind his ADP here. Honestly, while Lawrence is great value, I don't know if we can draft him. It sucks. We're going to be drafting someone 16, 17 picks later. But you know what we're actually probably going to do here? Rashad Bateman goes, so we do not have that stack option with a Lamar Jackson. So instead, we're going to pass on a Marquez Valdes-Scantling here, and we're actually going to go down and take a Paris Campbell. So here, this is going to set up a double stack that we could potentially get later on with a Carson Wentz, who regularly goes in round 16, round 17. And also, when we're getting Campbell, we're just making a bet on the T.Y. Hilton injury, and that maybe it just gives more snaps and more targets to both of those wide receivers. So yeah, let's go with a Paris Campbell here. We know that we need to be bringing in more receivers for this format. We're done at running back. We only need one more tight end and one more quarterback later on. So to recap our draft so far, at tight end, we have Travis Kelce at the 107. At quarterback, we have Lamar Jackson at the 507. We have possibly a quarterback 1 overall and a tight end 1 overall. And then we're bringing in some running backs in Najee Harris, Chris Carson, Zach Moss, Melvin Gordon, and Tony Pollard. Okay. So now let's switch this over to receiver. We got Tyler Boyd, Cortland Sutton, Michael Pittman, Terry McLaurin, and then Nelson Aguilar and Paris Campbell. 2 players that I think should be rising over the past week. But let's check out these donations real quick from Jay Gee. It says, would it be more advantageous to do drafts as close to the season as possible to know if all the injuries / cuts / starters, etc.? So if you're asking this about underdog public contests, you have to understand that there are advantages to drafting closer to the season, and that we know that you're not going to have any dead roster spots. You're not going to be wasting a pick on a John Brown. You're not going to be wasting a pick on a Brashad Perriman. You're not going to be wasting a pick on a Colin Johnson, as we have done in so many drafts. However, it's going to be very hard for you to build the super team. You're not going to be able to get the teams that have Gus Edwards in the 11th round. You're not getting James Robinson in the 8th. So there are advantages to it in that the teams that draft closer to the season, on average, they're going to have a higher score than the teams that draft maybe 2 months out. But you're also going to see the super teams built, the teams that are in the top 1% that are actually going to get drafted way before the season. So there are advantages and disadvantages to it. Now, personally, I'm going to be drafting far away from the season and as close to the season as possible, just because I'm trying to get in as many leagues as possible. But let me go through and make our next selection here. And like I said, guys, we're looking at one position and one position only. That's going to be a receiver. And here between a Jamison Crowder, a T.Y. Hilton, and a Sammy Watkins, honestly, I actually think that we're probably going to end up going with a Sammy Watkins over a Jamison Crowder. I mean, A, I love Elijah Moore. B, I actually really think that Corey Davis is going to be the alpha target there. So I think instead, getting a Sammy Watkins to get that random spike week in here. We know Sammy Watkins is good for at least one of those 50-point bombs. And to get that stacked with a Lamar Jackson, I think is going to make a lot of sense. So let's take Sammy at the 1406. And I think we're just going to continue to add wide receivers that are going to be playing snaps and running routes on this team. It's gross in this range. Thomas definitely crushing us out here, getting the running backs, getting the tight ends. But let's check this. Zach Wentz says, do we like CeeDee Lamb or a package of Thielen and Sermon in terms of raw value? So I'll say it's going to be very dependent on your league, where if you're playing in a league where you can go through and you can start multiple flex spots, you also have to start 3 wide receivers in general. There, I think you possibly prefer more so the package. But if you're playing in a league where you only start 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, a tight end, and a flex at the same time, there I would actually just prefer having the stud, the player with league winning potential, and a CeeDee Lamb, because we also have to know when you're bringing on a package, you're going to have to make a cut as well. So if you're going to have to cut someone off your team, just say someone in the range that you could potentially have like a Ramondre Stevenson, then you're going to be putting yourself in a very compromised position on what you could actually have. So definitely probably just going to go with CeeDee Lamb, the overall asset. Okay, Felipe says, where's your beautiful dog? My man, the beautiful dog is out there in the living room. And I'll say, if y'all want to see the beautiful dog, if this live stream gets, we have almost 600 people in here. If this live stream gets 300 likes within the next 2 minutes, so by the time we get to 9:31 EST, I'll go grab the beautiful dog to bring in. Okay, so Robert says, how do we get all that stuff after we make a $10 deposit? So, man, right down there in the description of the video where you went and clicked on that link, you'll see that all you have to do is shoot me a DM literally anywhere with your email that you signed up for Underdog Fantasy with and say, Mason, listen here, I signed up for Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK. I made that $10 deposit. I got my $25 added to my account. Just get me that 2021 draft guide, get me that rankings, and I don't need anything else from you, you bum, you lazy bum who has no idea what he's talking about and doesn't know how to play fantasy football. Just send me that message after you do it. You'll actually see that in the description of the video as well. If you don't have social media, that's completely fine. We actually have a free fantasy football group chat where you don't need to sign up with a credit card, an email, or anything. I'm not trying to get you signed up to an email list. You just click the link, choose a nickname, and then you're our group chat. Then you can go through, send me that message. And then if you want to delete our group chat, who cares? Delete the group chat. It's up to you if you want to be in it or not. Or you could also email me. It's all in the description of the video. You just have to reach out to me with the email that you signed up for Underdog Fantasy with. Okay, so now we have Quez Watkins, Dyami Brown. Quez Watkins going up to the 1501. Quez Watkins, a true riser. I don't know if we can go there with Quez Watkins, to be honest. I know that he could potentially have some spike weeks in him. Now let's move this over. Y'all know exactly where we're looking at. We are going a receiver, receiver, receiver. And if we're pulling up the receiver position, oh dear Lord. Oh dear Lord, this is an ugly room. And we only need 2 receivers, so I guess we can actually look quarterback or tight end. You know what? Hell, let's go tight end. Let's get Hunter Henry in here. I guess we have to be, if we're moving up Jonnu Smith with Mac Jones being the starting quarterback, we have to move up Hunter Henry as well. So let's bring in Hunter Henry in the 15th. He's going to be our tight end 2 behind Travis Kelce. The receivers in this range are disgusting where they're all pretty much the same to me. So yeah, I thought that we were just going to continue to go receiver, but we need another tight end. We need another quarterback. So now from here on, we can literally only be looking at QB and receiver. We need 1 more quarterback, and then we need 2 more receivers. Okay, so we have Tevin Coleman at the 15-10. We want to see these running backs. We want to see these tight ends going off the board. Thomas brings in 3 tight ends. He waits till the end of the draft, and he brings in Evan Ingram, Cole Kmet, and Austin Hooper. Let's go and let's check out Thomas's team. As if y'all don't know Thomas edits all the videos for the channel. He puts in a ton of work every single night. He stays up till like 3 a.m. to edit those videos for us. He's going to edit the one for tomorrow morning after this live stream. Thank you so much for everything, Thomas, of course. And let's go through and let's check this out where he took Zeke, Nick Chubb in the 1st and 2nd round. He also has down here Leonard Fournette and Alexander Madison as running back 3 and 4. So I'd imagine he's probably going to bring in at least 1 or 2 more running backs. And we know with a Thomas, he is slamming these receivers in the middle rounds every single draft where we see him go Cooper Kupp, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Antonio Brown, Michael Gallup, Brandon Cooks, and Terrace Marshall. He brings in Tom Brady, gets the stack with Antonio Brown. Now, I guess if you're seeing him take a Tom Brady, I'm just trying to figure out if we would have gone somewhere else. What I would have probably done is instead of Brady here, I potentially would have either gone with, this is what I would have done. I would have probably gone with a Hollywood Brown and then just get a quarterback on the way back if you really wanted a QB, even if you're not completing a stack, getting someone like a Burrow, a Stafford, a Tannehill, or anybody in that range. But we are on the clock real quick. Let's switch this over. And we're looking just QB and just wide receiver. So let's see if our guy is available. So he is. I'm checking how many teams between us have drafted 2 quarterbacks, and every single one has. Are there any wide receivers that we desperately need? There are not. They're all about the same. So let's bring in Carson Wentz. There's some quarterbacks that I've ranked over Carson Wentz in this range, but a big thing is we drafted Paris Campbell. We drafted Michael Pittman on this team. So we do have the double stack. I think it is going to be advantageous to just go out there and chase the highest ceiling possible. And that is going to be a Carson Wentz. Now let's move this down really quick. So there's Carson Wentz. Let's put that back up. Noah says, can you look at my team at the 103? Yes, sir. Let's go through and let's look at Noah's team really quick. And that way everybody at the top of the draft, I mean, everybody who's just now coming into the stream can see the top of the draft as well. So at running back, you see Kamara, CEH, Trey Sermon, Michael Carter. It is intriguing to take Carter just in this format because he's not going to have the role at the beginning of the season. Then Gio as the running back 5. Then a receiver, A.J. Brown, Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, Deebo Samuel, Marquez Callaway. So what I want to see is, what did he end up doing at tight end? Okay, so I think, honestly, getting bailed out, being able to draft Mike Gesicki here at the 1103. I mean, that's a fantastic value. I'm surprised that that was actually able to happen. Like, look at just this range of tight ends. It had just 2 rounds later, you're getting like Gronk and Evan Ingram off the board. Mike Gesicki, a fantastic pick there. Jalen Reagor at the 2-12-10, Tua Tagovailoa, Tua, I don't necessarily love the value with. I mean, Tua hasn't been someone I've been drafting a lot. Instead, I've been just getting a lot of the other quarterbacks down here, like getting a Sam Darnold, getting Carson Wentz in the 16th. So after this, we actually have Irv Smith, Pat Freiermuth, and Anthony Firkser all going off the board. Now, I will say we don't have official news just yet on Irv Smith Jr., but we do know that this team feels the need to go out and trade for Chris Herndon. I know Chris Herndon's not some fantastic quarterback by any means, but the fact that they felt the need to go out there and trade for him does, I don't want to say speak volumes, but it does kind of give us a small indication on what we may be able to expect with an Irv Smith Jr. Okay, so I just hopped into the $250 draft lobby, so let's see how many people in this live stream want to be going out and getting into a $250 draft with us. So if y'all want to get into a $250 draft, go to Underdog, go to the big dog. The reason we're doing this is I think they're actually going to have an overlay. I don't think the contest is going to fill, which will mean that Underdog has to guarantee those prizes, which means Underdog is putting extra money in the overall league pot for the tournament at the end of the season. Now, keep in mind, I can't guarantee that's going to happen. I can guarantee that if it doesn't fill, they'll put that guaranteed money in, but I can't guarantee it doesn't fill. As of now, it's about halfway filled, and we're 9 days away, and this contest has been available for about a month. So simple math is telling me there's a good chance that it doesn't. So if you want to get in this contest, go to Underdog Fantasy, go join the public $250 draft lobby. Now, we have to look at a receiver here. We have no other options but to go receiver. And then I think that we're actually probably just going to end up taking a Dwayne Eskridge. And Eskridge is not going to be someone I'm excited about drafting whatsoever in a regular league. But actually, you know what? Yeah, let's just take Dwayne Eskridge. Let's take Eskridge before we time out. I was going to talk myself into another receiver, but I actually think we can get that receiver a little later on in this draft. Okay, so there are 7 spots available in that $250 draft on Underdog Fantasy for anybody wanting to join. We will get another $10 draft going after that $250 one for anybody who can't join the $250. Trust me, I completely understand. The only reason I'm able to join the $250 is because A, y'all been fantastic signing up for Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK, and B, all the support on Patreon. So thank you everybody for that. Y'all are the only reason I can even do this $250 draft. I mean, if we didn't have the live stream, if we didn't have all of y'all supporting the channel, I wouldn't be able to get in the $250 draft, and I wouldn't be able to stream it for y'all. So of course, I owe everybody here a massive thank you for that. And let's see where Noah goes. Noah, I think, has to go with the running back. I think he has only drafted 3 running backs so far on this team. So he goes Darrington Evans at the 1705. Let's go through and let's check out what Noah's done so far. He has Darrington Evans, Chuba Hubbard, David Montgomery, Antonio Gibson at running back. Very intriguing. So how many receivers does he have? He has Hill, Chase, Chenault, Jarvis, Rondale, Ruggs, MVS. I really, Noah, I don't like the Winston selection here. When you take Patrick Mahomes, I think that you need to be waiting until like the 16th, 17th round to go with another QB. I mean, getting like a Derek Carr in the last round here would have been perfectly fine on a team that has Mahomes. So I don't agree with taking like a Winston here when you could have had a wide receiver that you like possibly more, when you could have had a running back that you like possibly more than like the Darrington Evans range. So that's just one thing that I'm not a big fan of. Now Carlos Hyde at the 1802. Devin says, have you max entered any of the puppy contests? No, I've not come close to max entering the puppy contest. We've been bouncing back and forth between Best Ball Mania and the puppy. I think based on Best Ball Mania having so many entries a long time ago, before the injury to Cam Akers, before the injury to Travis Etienne, before the injury to J.K. Dobbins, I think there are probably some super teams there that are going to be very hard to take down that I'm not even going to like try to go up against. So I'm probably done with Best Ball Mania. I'm probably just going in the big dog and the puppy 3 from now on, because also I want to be saving as much money as I can for the big dog draft, because like I said, I think that they're going to have an overlay. I think that Underdog is going to have to potentially put extra money into the league pot on the big dog. Okay. So now obviously guys that we would have been drafting previously, Rashad Perriman, John Brown. I mean, literally I was drafting these guys in the last rounds, and now they're toast. Someone I would have been taking for some different exposure on a Best Ball Mania, trying to get a team a little unique. A Colin Johnson, obviously that team is now dead. Instead, I think that we actually just go with a Josh Reynolds here. So let's take Josh Reynolds and let's show off the team that we have drafted in this draft. So yeah, we drafted at the 107, and keep in mind, guys, this is a team where when you take Kelsey, It's going to look gross at one position. It's either going to look gross at running back or receiver. It's going to be very hard to catch up on both. But we go Kelsey, we get Najee Harris, Terry McLaurin, Chris Carson, Lamar Jackson. Then after this, Tyler Boyd, Courtland Sutton, Michael Pittman, Zach Moss, Melvin Gordon, Tony Pollard, Nelson Aguilar, Paris Campbell, Sammy Watkins. We get the Watkins stack with a Lamar Jackson. And keep in mind, this is a league where you don't submit your starting lineup each and every week. It's automatically submitted at the end of each week for you. So what that's going to allow us is that's going to allow us to find those random spike weeks for a Sammy Watkins when he will be sliding into our lineup. So yeah, let me know what y'all think of that construction. Honestly, I think that I really like it. I was expecting to go with the build of 2 quarterbacks, 6 running backs, 8 receivers, and 2 tight ends, because in a league like this, your build really matters. But when we saw the running back value fall to us a little earlier, I think that we actually had to make a small pivot, and we actually had to go with just 5 running backs and 9 wide receivers because our wide receiver room was very weak. Okay. So now, guys, if you have yet to go and join our $250 draft, there are 7 spots available. So we will sit in this lobby real quick for probably about 3 or 4 minutes. If it doesn't fill, I'll just go through and I'll get another draft going and we can send that out in the live chat. So if you want in this $250 draft, make sure you go down there and just make sure that you go to the public lobby on Underdog Fantasy. And all you end up having to do is go to the Big Dog contest. Go to the Big Dog. That's going to be the $250 buy-in. And yeah, we're going to be hanging out there for the next few minutes, hoping that this draft fills. I will keep y'all updated on it. But let me go through and let me answer some of your questions. And thank you, everybody, for subscribing to the channel. Let me give some shout-outs to everybody subscribing real quick, guys. And if you are just now coming across this live stream for whatever reason, we do real money fantasy football drafts every single night. So make sure you subscribe and hit the bell next to the subscribe button if you want to come out to our next live stream, because sometimes YouTube doesn't recommend us when we're live, and instead they'll just go through and they'll recommend it as a video later on. But let's give out these shout outs to some new members of the flock: Jimmy, Travis, Charlie, Steven, JJ. Thank you all so much for joining the flock. And let's switch this over real quick so I can look at the general chat. And Steven says, do you play in redraft leagues as well or best ball only? Let's get a $250 redraft league going. Trust me, my man, I play in redraft leagues as well. I mean, I actually did a $1,000 league over there on Patreon earlier. Actually, it was a $500 buy-in. I paid $1,000 because I paid for my own entry fee. And also I did a giveaway over there on Patreon as well because we hit, I forgot what the milestone on Patreon was. We hit like 500 Patreon members. So I also paid for someone else to get into the $500 league with us. That's a redraft league. Why I'm really focusing in on just doing best ball right now is because I really want to get 250 drafts in this season. I want to get in as many drafts with y'all as possible. So of course I can't necessarily just sit here and do redraft streams every single night with high money redraft leagues, because all of a sudden I'd be in 100 leagues where I'm having to submit the starting lineup on Sunday morning when I'm supposed to be live streaming, when I'm supposed to be going through and answering questions. So I can't do that. We have to kind of stick it just logistically. It's going to be a lot better if we stick it right now with these best balls. Okay. So now let me go through and see if we have anything else. The Orchid says, Flock, your draft with Travis, you says Cooper, DK, and Julio the other day in the 250 where you autoed Irv Smith by accident will win you money in the Big Dog. Yeah, I mean, I think that draft, we actually crushed it in like the first 10 rounds in that $250 draft. The problem was, I think when we autoed Irv Smith, it threw me off to the point where, actually, did we end up getting Mac Jones in that league? Because we were drafting Mac Jones in a lot of those Big Dog drafts. I probably got Mac Jones in that league, to be honest. Let me double check to make sure I don't sound like just a jackass right now and just trying to run victory laps on something that didn't happen. Let me see how many Mac Jones shares I actually have in the $250 leagues. And we have 4 spots left for the $250 league. So it is going to look like, I mean, it does look like it's going to fill. And yeah, I think we drafted Mac Jones because we have Mac Jones in 2 shares and we've drafted 7 of these $250 drafts so far. And like I said, guys, these $250 drafts would not be possible if it was not for y'all. If it was not for everybody using promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy, if it was not for all the support that y'all have shown over there on Patreon. We've had a ridiculous amount of people joining Patreon as of late. So thank you so much, everybody. Okay. Caden says, one more Dynasty, right? Yes, sir. We're going to get one more Dynasty League going. And then Bamboozle says, 12-man full PPR. Who are you taking at 6, assuming Zeke is gone? I will say a big thing, guys, is I'm happy to go through and answer questions in the live chat. But like when we get questions about our rankings and stuff, like, oh, Mason, who would you rather have, this wide receiver or this wide receiver? It would be different like if I was like most other people where I'm going through and like selling my draft guide and selling my rankings for like just say $60 or something, where I'm like, okay, obviously not everybody can go through and not everybody can pay $60 for these rankings. Of course, then I'll be happy to answer those in a live stream. But when I made it literally about the easiest way it could ever be, so I can make sure that every listener of this channel got our 2021 fantasy football rankings. Every listener of this channel got our 2021 fantasy football draft guide, hundreds of pages of information on my exact thoughts on this upcoming season. And all you have to do is make a $10 deposit on Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK, and you're getting $25 added to your account when you do it. And you get to come out and draft in a live stream with me. I don't want to say it's insulting to ask me a rankings question, but when I've made it that easy for anybody to go out and see my exact rankings, it doesn't feel good to continue to get asked rankings questions. Guys, use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. I'm not selling these rankings for a ridiculous amount or anything. It's make a $10 deposit. You get $25 added to your account, and obviously you up the channel a ton. Okay. So we still have 4 spots left in this draft. So what we'll do is I'm going to wait, just say 9. We'll wait until it's 9:48 right now. Once it hits 9:48, if we still are waiting for 4 people, then I'm going to leave this draft and I'll get another $10 draft going, and we'll try to get a $250 draft going later tonight. Okay, let's go through. And yeah, guys, if y'all want to join this draft right now, this is a $250 league. There are 3 spots available. This is on Underdog Fantasy. We do a lot of $10 drafts on Underdog Fantasy as well. That way y'all can come out because, I mean, when you make that $10 deposit, you get $25 added to the account. So you can do a $10 draft with us. And then you can also go through and play with the $25 on your account, enter some $3 drafts, $5 drafts, $25 drafts, whatever you want to do. So we are going to get some $10 drafts going after this. But if you want to join this one, this is a $250 league. Do not make this your first draft ever on Underdog Fantasy. Do not come out here as your first draft. This is really, I only want people who are comfortable with Underdog Fantasy and have gotten in multiple drafts before joining this league, because it's a 30-second timer. So if you are not comfortable with fantasy football drafts so far in 2021, if you are not comfortable with a 30-second timer, do not join a $250 draft, because that is going to be extremely reckless. Okay, but we have 2 spots left in this league. Let me go through and let's share the screen real quick. Yeah, so where this draft is going to fill, when we only have 2 spots left, it's 100% going to fill. Let me switch this back over. And I'm assuming that we have a lot of people coming out here trying to take our money, because I will say that whenever we enter into like a puppy draft, whenever we enter in one of those $5 leagues, knowing how many people are just cycling those through, I'm pretty confident. I'm sitting there going, okay, well, I'm pretty sure I'm one of the better drafters in this room. But when we're in these $250 leagues, guys, the stress levels get high. The stress levels are sky high to the point where I'm like, okay, we're assuming that we're probably one of the worst drafters in this league. I'm assuming that everybody in here has a really good understanding of what they're doing if they're willing to spend $250 on a best ball fantasy draft. So it's scary, it's stressful, but I think it's really good at showing my exact thoughts, and it's good at testing me as well, because there's no better way to know how you are drafting or your player evaluation than when you're on the clock in a $250 league. So there are 2 spots available left in this draft. So since there are 2 spots available, this is going to fill. We're just going to go through and wait this out. I promise you guys, we're going to get this going. Sam Robinson says he just joined the Big Dog Draft with us. My man, good luck. And we got 1 spot left. And this is what I need from y'all. Listen closely. Listen, I'm talking to you right now. We need the 101. I have not gotten a Christian McCaffrey team in these $250 drafts. I need the 101. I've been going through and saying I'll settle for the 102. I'm not settling for the 102 tonight. We need the 101. So channel all the energy that you have. Put all the good vibes that you have. Put them in your fingertip, right here on the tip of your finger, sending us wishes for the 101. And go down there and drop a like on the live stream and send that energy out. And let's get the 101. Let's get Christian McCaffrey here, and let's build one hell of a team. I already know what we're going to be trying to accomplish on a Christian McCaffrey build. I think that we can do it. I think we can definitely optimize for the 20-round draft that we are about to be in. But I want the 101. We've done the 102. And yeah, we're just waiting for the last person to jump in here, guys. This is a $250 draft if anybody wants to get in. And also, this is a public league on Underdog. So even if nobody out in the live stream wants to get in, the Underdog has thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of users. So I'd imagine just one of those random guys may stumble into the $250 draft, not knowing that it's getting streamed right now. So of course, that's always a possibility. So we are in. Let's get the 101. Let's get it. Prayers up. Not only do we not get the 101, but someone who is out here in every... Okay, so this is scary, guys. We got some regulars out here. Dome Favors is out here in every single draft, and he has the menacing red shield, not even a regular shield. He has the menacing red shield, and I know a lot of people say shields don't matter, blah, blah, blah. Dome Favors is a crusher. We have seen this guy in every single $250 draft with us. I'm assuming he just sits out here in the lobby. And yeah, he comes out here and he builds great teams every single time. And then we also have Cognition. We've seen Cognition time and time again. What he actually usually does is he builds intriguing teams. I don't understand them. I will say we have seen him in enough $250 leagues before to assume that this guy is either A, very good at fantasy football and knows something that I don't, B, a whale that has a ton of money to throw into fantasy leagues and doesn't know what's going on. I have no idea, but seeing someone in a $250 draft over and over and over again definitely puts like fear down deep in your soul. And then we got Rummy Rams, a regular out here of the channel. Thank you, my man, for coming out. We also have Deezenators, another crusher. I wish like we had Dome Favors here at the 101. I wish we had Deezenators over here at the 112. I hate having to be this close to Deezenators. He is an extremely good drafter. Oh my God, this is going to be tough. It's going to be a tough draft. We can do it. We can do it though. We can do it. Okay, so Sam says, Dome had the 101 in my last $250 draft I did 2 hours ago. Shake my head. Okay, so if Sam's saying that he hopped into a $250 draft, okay, Sam, let me know what your name is on Underdog Fantasy. And if Sam is saying that he was in a $250 draft 2 hours ago and Dome was in there, that kind of confirms our suspicion. This guy is someone that is probably a million times better at fantasy football than I am. Because yes, I make a living off of fantasy football, but it's not off of me only drafting in fantasy football leagues. Obviously, a big part of that is Patreon. A big part of that is YouTube and everything that goes along with that. But this guy, if he is just making a living off of playing in fantasy football leagues, if he is literally just a professional fantasy football player and one of the very few guys that literally can just spend all day just making money off drafting in fantasy football drafts, I promise you he is a significantly better fantasy football player than I am. So this is it's scary going up against him. It's scary, guys. Now, we're going to try out something here. Okay, so let's see where Tanya goes. Devontae Adams here. We're going to do the exact same thing we did in the last draft. The exact same thing. We have done this almost every single mid-round, first-round pick we have had since the Irv Smith, since the Adam Trautman injuries. Let's bring out Travis Kelce. Let's plug in Travis Kelce in the middle of the first round. We just got done with a team like this. We just got done with the Travis Kelce build. Now, this is not going to be the same exact build. I will not make the same decisions that we made in the following rounds, but I think getting Kelce here and not having to worry about tight end, I think it gives us a massive edge. We're going to go Travis Kelce. And at this point, I'm starting to get Kelce in a lot of leagues. Like if I look up out of all the $250 drafts that we have done so far, Travis Kelce, I've actually drafted in 2 of them. So this is going to be the third $250 draft I actually have Travis Kelce in. And if I look up how many drafts I have them in all the other leagues with $5, $10, $25, $50, $100 buy-ins, let me look up what percentage of leagues that I actually have Travis Kelce in with our exposure as well. So in those leagues, I've drafted Travis Kelce in 12.2% of leagues. So I am extremely overweight on Travis Kelce this upcoming season. So we're expecting big things from Kelce. Let's expect that this edge plays out. And this is going to be scary. Now, Aaron Jones at the 111. Now, y'all know what I'm probably trying to accomplish here. I don't think it's a secret to anybody. Cognition ends up going with Saquon Barkley at the 107. Now we have Brody. Let me see if Sam ever told us in the live chat real quick what his name is on Underdog. Okay, I do not see that. Sam, let me know what your name is on Underdog Fantasy so I just know what's going on here. Okay, Calvin Ridley at the 201. And we just passed 300 likes on the live stream. Thank you, everybody, going down there and dropping that like, my dudes. I really appreciate it. And I may not be going through and giving my exact thought process with every single selection while we are leading up to the pick, because keep in mind, in a $250 league, A, I have the real pressure on me, and B, I don't want to be giving away my picks on the stream. As I will say, I think that I'm at a slight disadvantage, to be completely honest, when we're live streaming all our drafts and when people know exactly what we're trying to accomplish So I don't want to just reveal all the cards, even though I know that we have our rankings posted. I know that we have our draft guides out there. So we're probably at a slight disadvantage. I'm not going to make that an excuse. I just don't want to be going through and saying that as we are approaching our pick on the clock. Okay. So the 207. See where Designator goes. He took Ezekiel Elliott in the first round. Sam says he's Chi-Town true. Pick 9. Okay, so Sam is Chi-Town. DK Metcalf goes at the 205. Najee Harris at the 206. I think this is the same build that we started with yesterday. I think this is the same exact build. Let's go Nick Chubb. We're going Nick Chubb at the 207. Nick Chubb, like I said, I mean, I've said this so many times before. I know you're so tired of hearing me say this. I hated him when he was going at the end of the first. 207, completely fine with it. We'll bring in Travis Kelce, Nick Chubb to start this draft. It's nerve-wracking. I'll say this is going to be scary. I don't love having Nick Chubb in our fantasy leagues. Underdog fantasy is a little worse having Nick Chubb, considering the fact that it's a half PPR instead of a full PPR. So it's not as brutal as having him in a different format, but still, I don't love having Nick Chubb here. Now, Darren Waller does go at the 208. So what I was hoping for with the CMC, like whenever we add CMC, I was just going to be taking George Kittle at the 2-3 turn no matter what, just because I am really trying to get one of these elite tight ends now that we have the landscape really changing with the injuries to both Irv Smith and Adam Troutman, and those guys are less appealing. I've said this time and time again, but this is like a real trend that I'm seeing in all of these drafts that I'm doing. So my plan, if we were at the 101, is I was most likely going to go with like an AJ Brown or a Justin Jefferson and then George Kittle at the 2-3 turn. Sir Dilly says, I wanted to join, but I decided to wait for the $10. Yeah, my dude, I promise you we'll get a $10 draft going after this one. Well, 100%. And Mike says, why not Mixon over Nick Chubb? A big thing is we're going to be expecting that we can find Joe Mixon a lot later on. Like in a couple other $250 drafts, I was actually able to get Joe Mixon on teams where I took Dalvin Cook with at the 102. And also Joe Mixon, I actually think that one reason we really want him in a traditional regular fantasy football setup compared to Nick Chubb is because we should expect Joe Mixon to possibly have an additional 35, 40, I don't want to say 40, just say about 35 receptions compared to Nick Chubb this upcoming season. And in a full PPR format, that's a 35-point difference. That's massive. That's like that's about 6 touchdowns. Whereas in a half PPR, that gets cut in half. That goes from 6 touchdowns to a 3 touchdown difference. Or I think the yards that you would get with Nick Chubb are a little more appealing. So there are a couple things like I could have definitely considered a Joe Mixon there over Nick Chubb. But a big thing is just, okay. Now, you know exactly what we're doing with this next pick. It's not going to be a surprise to anybody. We're going with the receiver. We'll just figure out who we like the most when we are on the clock at the 306. Now, Slayton Markin on the clock. Was that a timeout? A timeout in a $250 draft? I don't know. It's so hard to tell who actually times out versus who just takes it to the very end, because y'all know a lot of times I dig it to the very end like that when we're going through and talking about it out loud. Okay, so at the 306. Come on. All of these wide receivers are like in the same tier. All of these guys are right in the same tier. Take the guy I don't want to. I think Tanya has actually been out to these $250 drafts with us as well. See Amari Cooper there. Amari was the guy that I wanted. So the question is Terry McLaurin or Robert Woods? I should have probably pulled this up real quick. I need to pull up my exposures. Got 13 seconds on the clock. Let's cue them just in case we time out. We just have to go Terry McLaurin. We just have to. It sucks. Like I've said so many times before, like we're laughing at the people taking Terry McLaurin over Keenan Allen, CeeDee Lamb, Allen Robinson. I personally would prefer having Robert Woods and Chris Godwin over McLaurin. But I think we honestly kind of just have to take McLaurin there. Trust me, I wanted Woods, my dudes. I have Woods in so many more leagues. And also, we're going to be able to get Woods a lot in this range where we're never going to really have the option to take Terry McLaurin there. So it seems like I've been drafting Terry McLaurin a lot as of late, and that's mainly because when I'm in drafts with y'all, Terry McLaurin goes significantly later than he does in regular fantasy drafts. And at the same time, we've been more so drafting in the middle of the third round where Terry McLaurin is always an option there. So from an exposure standpoint, guys, y'all know I like my guys. I have to cap ourselves at certain percentages. Like, keep in mind, I cap myself at 20% Travis Etienne. If we didn't cap ourselves there and we continue to take Travis Etienne no matter what, where I thought he was best player available, we would have had about 45% Travis Etienne. So we have to keep that in mind when we're playing in 250 drafts. So we're going to go with a Terry McLaurin. The pick is a wide receiver no matter what. And yeah, Cognition goes with his same exact strategy we have seen him go with time and time again. I mean, he even gets his guy. I swear to God, Cognition takes Kyle Pitts in every single draft. I am almost certain that Cognition is actually just Kyle Pitts, and he signed his rookie contract, and he figures that he can jump into a lot of $250 fantasy drafts, and he continues to take himself in the third round. That's my assumption on who Cognition actually is. Like, if we could go through and look at his underdog identity, most likely is actually just Kyle Pitts himself. Okay, so now we have a David Montgomery going at the 403, a little earlier than where David Montgomery actually goes in the majority of these $250 drafts. Okay, so now with this fourth round pick, okay, Mahomes goes. Thank God. Thank God that Mahomes goes, because we were probably going to end up drafting Mahomes, and I was probably going to end up hating my life. Like, that kind of saved Chi-Town through. That is Sam in the chat. He saved us from ourselves. He saved us from ourselves. Okay, so now we're going to be back on the clock in 3 picks. Julio Jones goes at the 405. Definitely someone that I was hoping was going to fall to us. Now we're going to be taking one of 2 players, depending on who ends up falling. Let's just see where Cognition ends up going. Maybe he goes DeAndre Swift. We know that he loves to load up with those running backs early and then get a ton of wide receivers later on. So maybe he goes with a DeAndre Swift. Instead, he goes with an Adam Thielen, and we are getting our guy. Hell yes. Hell yes, hell yes. We get T. Higgins at the 407. I love T. Higgins at the 407, even before the preseason struggles by Ja'Marr Chase. This is such a smash pick. Also, we're going to have the opportunity, in my opinion, to get Joe Burrow potentially at a discount later on. We've seen Joe Burrow take a small dip down in his ADP, so we can set up that stack for us. Love getting T. Higgins there at the 407. Okay. So now after Higgins, let's see. Tanya takes DeAndre Swift. I think Tanya maybe auto. Is there really an auto drafter in a $250 draft? I welcome it. I welcome it, especially because in these big dog leagues, the ADP isn't updated as often as it is in the puppy draft or best ball mania. Because in those drafts, I mean, you have literally, if you enter on Underdog Fantasy, like you go to the $5 draft lobby, which was where I'm at. If I'm not live streaming, I'm just in the $5 drafts, getting off $5 draft after $5 draft after $5 draft. I mean, in those, you'll enter it and it literally gets filled in about 20 seconds. I mean, they are doing drafts constantly there because Underdog has thousands and thousands and thousands of people on it. But the $250 drafts, they do not fill that often. There are probably only, I don't want to say an exact number because I'm probably wrong. I'd imagine there are probably only about 4 big dog drafts that get kicked off every single day, which is why I don't necessarily think that they're going to fill and why I think that Underdog may have to pump a little more money into the league pot to guarantee those prizes. I can't just say that's 100% happening. Maybe it fills closer to the start of the season, but we got 9 days. I mean, it isn't trending that way. So yeah, I don't know. I think that the ADP is really not efficient here, that if anybody is auto drafting, it's going to be really bad for them. Like if you're auto drafting in a $5 league, it doesn't really matter because the ADP is so set in stone. Okay, so now let's switch this back over. And at the 506, this is going to be, oh my God, this is why we get in these drafts. This is the rush that I am searching for. Come on. Let's see where Tanya goes. Hopefully, maybe they're on auto. Are they on auto? Are they really about to get Ja'Marr Chase? This is about to be so tilting. They go Kyler Murray. It takes it down to the, maybe they just set a queue or something. I don't know why they're taking so long. Now, this is a risky selection. And we are going to be trying to set up the Joe Burrow double stack right here. So we are going to be bringing in Ja'Marr Chase as another receiver for Cincinnati. Let's bring in Ja'Marr Chase. And yes, I understand he had a very bad preseason. And I was saying Ja'Marr Chase was overdrafted before the preseason when he was going in the middle of the 4th round, when he was going before T. Higgins. I thought Ja'Marr Chase was a very bad pick in that range. But when we can go through and we can start to build in this correlation in our lineup with a position that we need at wide receiver, I think we are going to be at an advantage for the upside case that we are trying to make in going with a Ja'Marr Chase at the 506. I know that most people at this point in their drafts, they're going with the Jerry Jeudy. However, Chase is going to be my guy. Now you have Gus Edwards going directly after. Personally, I'm not going to be looking at a running back in this range. I really want to make sure that we are just trying to slam in as many receivers as we can here. And so I know a lot of people probably hated seeing me take Ja'Marr Chase there. And trust me, guys, I would be with you if we were taking Ja'Marr Chase where he used to go in the middle of the 4th round. I would be with you if this was a league where we weren't necessarily trying to chase the highest ceiling possible, and instead we were just playing up against 11 other people and did not have the tournament at the end. But knowing that we have to get 1st or 2nd in this 12-man league, then we get entered into the tournament after we already get paid for getting 1st, 2nd, or 3rd in this 12-man league, then we get entered into the tournament, and that's where some serious money can be won. That's when you can win $100,000. I'm trying to get the highest ceiling possible, and I think Ja'Marr Chase is going to give us that here at the 506. Now you have Gus Edwards, Mark Andrews, Lamar Jackson. Okay, so let's check out what Sam has done so far. And let me scroll up. If anybody's just now joining us in this stream, guys, this is a $250 fantasy draft. We do these live streams all the time. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you drop a like on the live stream. We are streaming real money fantasy football drafts every single night. And if you want to get in on these real money fantasy football drafts with me, if you want to draft on your own, you want to go to a public lobby and see if you can beat some people in real money fantasy drafts, make sure you sign up for Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK. When you sign up for Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK and make a $10 deposit, A, you help our channel a ton. B, you get $25 added to your account. So you're essentially getting paid to go and do fantasy football drafts. C, you get our 2021 rankings and tiers updated all the way to the start of the season. And D, you get our 2021 fantasy football draft guide, our 2021 dynasty rookie draft guide, hundreds of pages of information that we could be selling for like $90. And instead, I'm just saying, just help us out. Use promo code FLOCK and Underdog Fantasy, and I'll be happy to get it all to you. Please, guys, make sure you support the channel. And let's switch this back over and let's look at where we're going to go. And maybe, just maybe, we go crazy here. Myles Gaskin goes. Oh, dear Lord. Oh, dear Lord. I know people are not going to like this. I honestly don't even want to have to explain myself. I don't want to make the pick just because I don't want to have to explain myself, but we actually just drafted him at the 607 in the last draft. Tyler Boyd. Now the problem is we are so locked in to the Cincinnati Bengals being a top 5 overall passing offense that we are locked in to having to get Joe Burrow. If we do not get Joe Burrow, and the problem is, guys, if you haven't been out to these live streams before, since I am live streaming these, people love to come out and snipe us when we're setting up something like this. So it's a lot harder for us to pull off. But I know we're putting ourselves out there. I know we're putting a lot on the line. But Tyler Boyd's going to be my guy here. We're going for it. We're going to try to get Joe Burrow. Yes, God, this is stressful. This is literally like the other $250 live draft that we did about last week. And keep in mind, in that draft, we took Brandon Ayuk, we took Deebo Samuel, and then we also wanted to get Trey Sermon in there. And we were going, for the love of God, give us Trey Lance. Bring Trey Lance onto this roster, because obviously stacking your teams, like we have already discussed, I mean, it raises your ceiling. Yes, it lowers your floor, but I'm not giving a crap about my floor here. I am ceiling. So yeah, we're going to try to get Joe Burrow later on. And I promise you guys, if you do any research on your own right now about the mathematics behind what we are currently doing, there have been a ton of smart people, including myself, I want to think, that have laid out to show exactly why it's a great decision to go through and make sure that you are making that one bet and you parlay them with correlated bets that could increase your overall starting lineup upside. And I think that's exactly what we have here. We didn't want a running back with this pick. There's no way in hell we were going with a running back. So yeah, we have the entire Bengals offense. And we are all in. And the big thing is, like I said so many times before, I don't play fantasy football to get third. I don't play fantasy football to get fourth. I play to get first or last. So if we come out and Joe Burrow is a bum, well, hell, we probably lost the league already by taking T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. If Joe Burrow comes out and he's a top 3, top 5 NFL passer in terms of his overall passing volume, who the hell is beating this team? Nobody. Okay. So let's bring this over real quick. And anybody who's... I have to be quiet. I have to be quiet, guys. It's a $250 draft. I can't be just giving away everything here. Okay, so let's see where Tanya decides to go. I swear to God, if we saw like a Joe Burrow pick here, I would probably in the live stream. I'd probably cry. Oh my God, no. Oh, they had to take it down to the last second. They had to take it down to the last second. Are you kidding me with that? Are you kidding me? Oh my God. Putting me on tilt. Oh my gosh. Kareem Hunt, our guy. I thought we were getting him. I thought we were getting him in back-to-back drafts in the 7th round. And dear Lord, just having to take it down to the last second. The last second on us. And I'll say also, guys, if y'all think that I am not a good drafter, hell, I got some news for you. I got some great news for you. If you think that you really know what you're doing with fantasy football, if you think it's a bad idea to make bets on overall offenses and get correlation into your starting lineup, if you think it's a bad idea to go out there and stack and have a strategy behind your draft, I got great news. If you use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy, make that $10 deposit, you can get access to my draft guide, maybe learn a thing or two, and B, you actually can go through and play against me in these $250 drafts. These are real drafts, USD. This isn't monopoly money here. This is United States dollar. So come out. If you think that you're better than me and you can take my $250, clearly there are some people who are doing that right now. Clearly there are some people who believe that they are better than me. I'll say Dome Favors, probably someone that's better than me. Deezenators, probably someone that's better than me. Cognition, not sure on that one. Also, Derek out here in every single draft takes Damian Harris at the 7-11. Takes Damian Harris at the 7-11. And John says, are you doing any $10 or $50 drafts tonight? Yeah, we'll get a $10 draft going after this, my dudes. We'll get a $10 draft for everybody coming out that wants to get in an underdog draft with us. Because trust me, I know that not everybody can do a $250 league. That's completely fine. I would not be able to do a $250 league if it wasn't for y'all using promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. If it wasn't for y'all just supporting the show on Patreon. So y'all are 100% the reason I'm even able to do this. I understand that not everybody can. So, of course, we're going to get in some $10 drafts right after this. Okay, so now we have a Jalen Waddle at the 802. Logan Thomas at the 803. We want to see these tight ends going off the board. When we have Kelsey in the first, I'm not looking at getting any of these tight ends. We want to see them getting drafted. Okay, so now let's switch this over. And honestly, y'all have seen me time and time again. I am someone that's completely willing to just wait on running back. Once we especially get a Nick Chubb, I think we're just trying to build our wide receiver core, because I know a lot of people are going to be looking at this going, Mason, aren't you going a little overboard on wide receiver? Don't you need a running back to come in? Guys, please, let's wait 2 rounds and I'll show you how nasty wide receiver is going to get. I'll show you how gross the position gets at receiver. Okay, let me go through and look something up real quick. Okay, Michael Thomas goes at the 805 by Deezenators. Great pick by Deezenators. I really thought... Okay. This is why we can't have nice things. We're going to go through. We're just going to make our pick and be quiet. Clearly, Cognition is just donating to the league pot here. Takes Joe Burrow right before us. Just knowing that we're on the live stream. Clearly watching the live stream. Clearly wanting a reaction. Takes Joe Burrow 3 rounds before his ADP. For no apparent reason. So, it is what it is. This is the price of me going through and doing these live streams for y'all. So, I really hope that you enjoy the live streams. I really hope that y'all enjoy me punting $250 away. So all I have to say is drop a like on the live stream, subscribe to the channel. If you want me to continue to do these drafts, I mean, that's kind of what we have to do, because obviously people coming out and doing this for us. And so far, receiver having Adam Thielen, Jerry Jeudy, just completely punting. It is what it is. We're going to continue to go through. We're going to continue to try to build good rosters. Derek says maybe he is Joe Burrow. He could easily be Joe Burrow. Maybe he's Joe Burrow and Kyle Pitts. Maybe Joe Burrow and Kyle Pitts are in a secret relationship and he's one of them. That could be it. That could be it. Yeah. Okay, so now we get Justin Herbert at the 8-12. Oh, Justin Herbert. This may be the first draft I've seen Justin Herbert fall behind Joe Burrow. That's fantastic value. Wait, Aaron Rodgers is still on the board. Aaron Rodgers going behind Joe Burrow? What kind of draft is this? Oh, dear Lord. Okay, Unexpected Savage says, I'd ban that dude for real. My man, it's a public underdog draft. I'm not banning him. He comes in here and he pretty much donates $250 to the league pot every draft. So if he wants to do it, he can do it. Okay, so now we got A.J. Dillon at the 903. So now we're going to be pulling this back up. And Noah Fant at the 904. So let's see where Tanya decides to go. He actually has Kyler Swift, Kareem Hunt, Devontae Adams, Amari Cooper, Antonio Brown, Michael Pittman, and Darren Waller. So he went pretty early. Actually, no, not that early on Michael Pittman. I guess he takes Michael Pittman with this last pick. So no, a lot of people are saying, Mason, that's a lot of receivers, isn't it? Yes, it's a league where you have to start 3 receivers. You have a flex as well, so you're starting 4 wide receivers every single week. He goes Devontae Parker. So I guess we just take Aaron Rodgers here. I know we don't have any stacks, but I mean, getting Aaron Rodgers to the 906, he's never falling this far ever. So yeah, let's take Aaron Rodgers. We're getting him significantly behind ADP. And we have a donation coming out from Liam, says, to help you for your loss. Thank you, my dude. Thank you. And yeah, guys, if y'all enjoy these live streams, if y'all enjoy this, make sure y'all go down there, drop a like, use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy, deposit $10, get $25 added to your account, come out here, draft with me, put me on tilt. Yeah, so we had to take Rodgers. I think when we take Rodgers as well, if we get another quarterback that we're fine with, we can go through and just roster 2 at the position. So yeah, let's take Rodgers, and then from here, we're probably just going to go through and we're going to find some running back value after this. I promise you there are a lot of running backs that we can start to look at in the 10th, 11th, and 12th rounds. I mean, trust me, guys, I've done a million of these drafts. I know how they're going to fall. I mean, you're going to have the wide receiver. I mean, we have one of the nastiest wide receiver cores right here with Joe Burrow, without Joe Burrow. We have an elite tight end. We have a running back anchor. And then when we're getting Aaron Rodgers in here as I don't want to say an elite quarterback, but still a very high-end QB, we're going to be able to find then a bunch of running backs that we can platoon through as our running back 2 in rounds 10, 11, 12. Because look at the wide receivers that are going to be going in this range. I mean, I promise you, wide receivers are going to dry up, and there are going to be running backs that are available to us later on. And also, I mean, we have only drafted 6 receivers. We have 2 wide receivers on our bench right now. It's not like we've gone overboard. I've seen teams come out here and literally have 8 or 9 receivers through the first 10 rounds of the draft. I mean, it's a completely different monster when you're playing in a best ball league that you have to start 3 wide receivers. Okay, so Mike says the live chat is going so fast right now. Yeah, we got both Mike and Aaron and Jayan all out in the chat. All people that were going to every single premiere with us during the offseason. And yeah, the chat was moving a lot slower than we got a fast moving chat right now. And Tom Brady at the 10:02. Let's switch this back over. And Aaron says, do you have PlayStation or Xbox? My man, I work 7 days a week, 12 to 14 hours a day. I graduated with 2 degrees last semester. I haven't played video games in a very long time. I literally just can't, even if I wanted to. Okay, so now when we're looking at it, guys, and this is what I'm talking about. Like, if you look at the wide receivers that are available here, this is why we went heavy wide receiver. This is why we take Brandon Cooks 2 rounds ago instead of the running backs in that range. This is why we take Brandon Cooks over an A.J. Dillon, because the receivers that we are now looking at are guys like Henry Ruggs, Emmanuel Sanders, Cole Beasley, Traquan Smith, Nelson Aguilar, Jalen Reagor. It just gets gross very fast at receiver. So you do have Chi-Town going with Michael Carter as their running back 3. Ryan Tannehill goes at the 10:05. Tannehill would have been someone that I would have considered, Then Dallas Goedert goes to the 10.06. So here we're just more so going to be bringing in a running back that we know is going to have a guaranteed workload. We're going to bring in a Ronald Jones here as our running back 2. We're going to bring him in with a Nick Chubb. And I mean, like going back to what we did earlier, like if we're looking at our team where I know a lot of people are screaming, Mason, you're going too heavy on a receiver. So if we would have gone with a Damian Harris over a Courtland Sutton, like what do y'all prefer? Do you prefer Damian Harris and Henry Ruggs or Courtland Sutton, Ronald Jones? Probably Courtland Sutton, Ronald Jones. Now with Brandon Cooks, do y'all prefer just say AJ Dillon and then Henry Ruggs, or do you prefer Brandon Cooks and Ronald Jones? You prefer Brandon Cooks and Ronald Jones. The running backs are going to be the value here, and you're not necessarily going to have the luxury of being able to go out there and draft those running backs if you pass on receiver early. So I think just going through and getting those locked and loaded wide receivers at the top as well as the depth is going to make a lot of sense. Okay, so Tony Pollard at the 10.08. Jalen Hurts at the 10.09. Honestly, I think that if we got a quarterback falling back to us in the middle of the 11th, we would be fine with it, because the big thing is when we take Rodgers, it's not like a Lamar Jackson or a Patrick Mahomes where all of a sudden we can wait until literally the last round and only draft one more guy. Rodgers, if we were to wait until the tier like a Derek Carr, I still think we're in a range where we probably want to be drafting a third QB. So it does make sense when you have Rodgers to get another quarterback around this tier. Now, guys, we literally can't go through and stack with any offense outside of Ryan Fitzmagic, just because, I mean, we put all our eggs in that Kansas City basket. And can you all imagine this team if we would have gotten Joe Burrow in one of these rounds? This team would be nasty right now. Okay, Sony Michel at the 11.11. Definitely a nice Sony Michel selection. Let's go through and let's check out what Dome Favors is doing so far in this draft. So he has at running back CMC, Trey Sermon, James Conner, Sony Michel. At receiver, he has Justin Jefferson, Chase Claypool, Odell Beckham Jr., Juju, Curtis Samuel. He has George Kittle at tight end. And yeah, he does end up not stacking Herbert, but the Herbert value was so good regardless that I don't necessarily think a stack is crucial when you're getting that kind of value on him. You're taking him at the 8-9 turn. Very rarely are you seeing Justin Herbert actually fall that far. Now, Bryan Edwards obviously going up draft boards with John Brown getting cut. Now let's pull this back up, see where we're at. And let's see where Tanya should go. Okay, so they have Kyler, Swift, Hunt, Pollard, then Adams, Amari, AB, Michael Pittman, Devontae Parker, Darren Waller. They have such a balanced team. They can go anywhere. They can literally draft anything. Okay, so let's see. Obviously, they're probably taking it down to the very last second. They're taking it down to the last second to make sure that we are on the edge of our seat, making sure that we are stressed as we possibly can be. Hell yes. Okay, guys, even though we don't get Joe Burrow, this is one hell of a team now. Adding Zach Moss in here. Zach Moss, oh, this is the perfect combination for our running back 2 here. Getting 2 running backs that are going to have roles on very good offenses that could get a decent amount of touchdowns this year. Let's go through and let's show this team. So we have the elite level tight end in a Kelsey. We have a pretty damn good quarterback in an Aaron Rodgers. And then at receiver, name a team better than us. McLaurin, Higgins, Chase, Boyd, Sutton, Cooks. And then we have Chubb, Rojo, and Zach Moss at running back. So we are weak at running back. Of course, we can't act like we're not weak at running back. But I think we are patching things together to the point where we can crush teams at wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, the flex, tight end. And we can maybe crush teams at quarterback depending on what we get in the next few rounds. And then we can be okay at running back 1 with the Nick Chubb. And we can be slightly worse than other teams at running back 2. So, I mean, I think we are crushing right now. Now, Mike Gesicki at the 11-10. Of course, we are wanting these tight ends to go off. When we have Travis Kelce, we're hoping we see them go off. Jamal Williams goes to the 11-11 to Derek. Now, there are some receivers that I thought would be rising up to this range. It's surprising to see them not go off the board just yet. Yeah, so Brady on the clock. He goes Matt Ryan at the 11-12. Oh my God, did he? I'm assuming you went Calvin Ridley earlier on then. Yeah, so he gets Calvin Ridley here, and then he goes through and he does get that stack with the Matt Ryan. The True says Ramondre Stevenson or Tyson Williams. You want to go Stevenson. I mean, Ramondre Stevenson, y'all know I'm a little biased in that I liked him before the preseason. So, of course, when we get that confirmation bias, coming in and a player that we like beforehand, looks great in the preseason. Obviously, they have Sony Michel leaving. They have Mac Jones being named the starter. Both things definitely help Ramondre Stevenson. I want to go Stevenson. Okay, so now we got Jalen Reagor, Cole Beasley. Reagor, I have no idea why the hell Rager's still going in this range. I mean, maybe you're drafting Reagor here going, okay, well, there's an outside chance they trade for it. It ain't happening. It ain't happening at this point. So Jalen Reagor at the 1201. I think we have drafted him in very few leagues. Let me see how many leagues. Yeah, I've drafted Jalen Reagor and literally, okay, so if y'all go through, like if I'm talking about some of the buy-ins that I have with players, I literally have like over $1,000 of entry fees just on Carson Wentz. And Jalen Reagor, I have been $45 of entry fees. We have Jalen Reagor nowhere. Okay, now let's switch this back over. So Gerald Everett still being available. You know what? I don't love this when we have Ronald Jones. I don't love it when we have Ronald Jones, but it's not a pure handcuff. You could see them spiking back and forth. So we're going to go Leonard Fournette there. I don't love it, trust me. But like I said, I think that we have so much upside at every other position that I think we're fine to go through and give away some upside at running back for a stable floor. Very rarely am I going and chasing a floor, but I think this team already has so much upside. We can't afford to go with a Leonard Fournette at the 1207. Jordan says Jalen Reagor has more upside than Tyler Boyd. Maybe the dumbest thing I've ever heard. That may be the dumbest thing I've ever heard, to be honest. I hated Jalen Reagor coming out of TCU. To say he has more upside than Tyler Boyd at this point in fantasy football, that's not true. But yeah, he's faster than Tyler Boyd. That's it. like it's so hard to come out here and say that. Okay, so now we have Rashad Bateman, Amaro St. Brown, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Gerald Everett would have been intriguing. A big thing is, I just think it's most like a punt. Now, Don't Favors goes with a Latavius Murray at the 1301. I am never seeing Latavius go in this range anymore. The majority of drafts, I am now seeing Latavius like fall to the 15th round. That is really intriguing. See him to go with Latavius Murray. Now, Tyrell Williams, a great pick here. Okay, so now let's switch this back over. Now, so we have 6 wide receivers, 4 running backs, and then we have a quarterback we feel confident about, a tight end that we feel confident about as well. I think so far, I think when we pass on the quarterback tier like Matthew Stafford, Ryan Tannehill to bring in our second quarterback, I think we're probably going to roster 3. So I'd imagine that our roster construction here is probably 3, 5, and some quick math, then probably like 9 receivers. Yeah, so let's go through and receivers pretty gross here. Tua, we don't have any stacks with. Evan Ingram, of course, we're not considering. We're going to make another. This is going to be a very interesting team. I think this is a very unique team, to be honest. Nyheim Hines was someone that I was wanting with our next pick. Alexander Mattison goes, and if we look at the running back position, it's really gross at this point, where I think if we we're going to bring in Devin Singletary, and this is like a completely different build that I never go with. We never draft backfield running mates, but it's more so the value that was presented to us, and we're not reaching on them to bring it. I think that, like, I don't like it because we have a Zach Moss, but I think we have to do it just based on the value, because this is going to allow us to stop at 5 running backs when we bring in a Devin Singletary as well. So we're going to be done with 5 running backs here, and it's going to allow us to get 3 QBs, and it's going to allow us to get all those extra receivers on our team. So we're going to go 4 running backs in this range. This is kind of what I'm trying to accomplish. We're trying to get running backs that we think can go through and can spike into our lineup. So yeah, I think that's, obviously it's not ideal having them. Like if I would have known that we would have had these players falling to us, like a Leonard Fournette, we probably would have gone instead of a Ronald Jones. Maybe we would have gone with like a Tony Pollard or a Melvin Gordon in the 10th round. But we're not reaching to try to get these backfield mates. I think it could create unique teams having these guys, though. And at the same time, I just think that we're going to have so much upside at every other position. Okay, so now Giovanni Bernard goes to the 1309. Obviously, this team, you can't take Gio because you're essentially making a bet when we draft Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette that Giovanni Bernard's not going to have that large of a role. Okay, so Cole Kmet. And with AJ Green, guys, I know that AJ Green does look like an appealing option, but still, like, I mean, if I pull up right now the ADP difference between AJ Green and Devin Singletary in the puppy drafts, literally, so keep in mind, these are the best ball mania. These are the puppies. So these are the ones that are updated very often, and they have a lot of drafters going through and making those markets efficient. There's a 20 pick difference in that ADP, and we are so strong at receiver already, and I think we're going to be able to have the opportunity to continue to bring more guys in. It probably does make sense to go there. Tua Tagovailoa goes after Sam Darnold. Very intriguing. So do we actually have a Brady here going with a Carolina Panther that I didn't see? Yeah, so he has DJ Moore. So obviously you see Brady wanting to go through and complete those stacks. He also has at running back Eckler, Chase Edmonds, J.D. McKissick as his 3 options. So I don't love Devin Singletary with the construction of the team. I think with the construction of the team, we do have to go running back. And I think he is by far and away the best running back in this group. Captain says, I just used your code and DM'd you on Twitter. My man, thank you so much for using promo code FLOCK on Underdog. I promise you I'll go through and send out that draft guide to you as soon as we get done with this live stream. Now we have Evan Ingram, Ramondre Stevenson. Great pick with Ramondre Stevenson. The last running back of that tier. We're definitely done drafting running back at this point. From now, we're just quarterback, wide receiver, and tight end. If we're pulling this up, obviously, you're going to have to be moving T.Y. Hilton down significantly. We're actually going to go KJ Hamler here. Let's go KJ Hamler. He's going to be our wide receiver 7. We're looking for someone that can spike up. Y'all know I've been a fan of KJ Hamler. In the 14th round, I'm going to be fine of the value. So far with this team, at receiver, I think that we've actually been able to bring in maybe the best receiver core in the league. Terry McLaurin, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, Courtland Sutton, Brandon Cooks, and then KJ Hamler as well. Considering how many roster spots we're going to be able to have with the receiver, I really like this team. Okay, so now after this, okay, Scuba says, why not Fitzy? Because when we commit that we're drafting 3 QBs on this build, I'm going to be wanting to wait longer on quarterback. I'm going to be wanting to wait longer on QB. Aaron says, is Stevenson draftable in a 12-team redraft league? 100% Ramondre Stevenson's draftable in a 12-team redraft league, my man. Now, Levi, let me give some shout-outs to people subscribing to the channel. We got Everyone Read This. We got Oren, Dave, Amir, Levi. We got Strange Company, Trainer Twins, Duai, Scott, Jordan, Leak Joe, Henry, Antonio, Zez, Poot, Nicholas, Cody, Ronak, Jordan, SARS, Jimmy, Travis, Charlie, Steven, JJ. Thank y'all all so much for subscribing to the channel. Really hope y'all are enjoying the live stream. We do this every single night. Okay, so now you have some more quarterbacks going off the board. Now, Ryan Fitzpatrick does go to the 14-12. Honestly, I'm not too concerned at this point. When we have 3 quarterbacks, I'm a little less worried about getting stacks in, to be honest. Brendan says, I used your code and added $10. How can I get in the next draft? So you're going to see whenever we get done with this draft that we are going to go to the live chat, and I'm going to send out a link to our next draft, and it'll be like $10 draft here, blank, and then you'll see the link, and then you just click the link, and you'll be right in. Okay, so maybe we honestly need to start considering tight end at some point, considering like wide receiver is really gross now. Wide receiver is pretty damn disgusting. We probably need to be bringing in more bodies still. Philip Lindsay goes to the 1504. Very rarely are you seeing Philip Lindsay actually fall that far. I think that we're just kind of looking for guys that could spike. How far down do we need to bring T.Y. Hilton? Have we have any news on Hilton? So Tanya goes with a Darrington Evans. We weren't looking running back regardless. Honestly, I think we just need to continue to bring in receivers. We're going to bring in Sammy Watkins here, looking for players that could spike into our starting lineup. Yeah, so we're going to go Watkins at the 1506. And we are playing it risky, but I think that we want to just maybe lean in with the risk, knowing how teams are going to have to build their rosters from here. And like Darius Slayton goes right after. I like that Sammy Watkins pick. Let's go through. Jared Cook goes to the 1508. The thing is, I think tight end is a great value in this range. The problem is having Travis Kelce. It's hard to take like the tight end that we would have been looking at. I personally wouldn't have been going with a Jared Cook. But yeah, Hunter Henry actually would have been my guy. Once you have Mac Jones named the starter, I think Hunter Henry is very appealing. It's just when we take a Kelce, I think it's a lot harder. And maybe we should have taken Hunter Henry. Maybe we should have gone back and moved that pick. Okay, so Zeus is on. I wonder where T.Y. Hilton goes in this draft. Because obviously Hilton does have some upside. And Precise says James White is the best running back left, especially with Mac Jones being the starter, because Mac Jones is going to check the ball down more out of the backfield to those running backs. So I completely agree with you. James White, 100% the best running back left. We can't take a running back here. So the question is, would we prefer the combination of James White and A.J. Green or Devin Singletary, Sammy Watkins? I actually think that's a real question where maybe we made that mistake going with a Devin Singletary there. Maybe if we would have known that we could have gotten a James White in the 15th, that would have possibly been a better pick. Okay, so now we have a Brody. I don't know if this is Brady. I'm assuming this is Brady, not Brody. Okay, so he goes Olamide Zaccheaus. So he also has Matt Ryan. So he's getting a double stack in here with Matt Ryan and Calvin Ridley. And then goes Adam Troutman at the 1601. That's surprising. I really thought he was going to be drafting a James White. I mean, he is extremely thin at running back at this point. I was almost certain that was actually going to be a James White. Kenneth Gainwell at the 1602. Kenneth Gainwell, is James White still available? Yeah, James White at the 1603 behind Kenneth Gainwell. That's ridiculous value with James White after that news. Okay, so now in the 16th round, I think that is kind of obvious with where we're going to go. So we're trying down. This is Sam in the chat. So far, he has Mahomes at quarterback, so I'm assuming that's why he's waiting so long on QB. And then at running back, he has Gibson, Henderson, Carter, Gio. So he goes David Johnson as his 5th running back here. So I believe that's the only other team right now in this draft that only has one quarterback. We're 100% going to be needing to bring in a QB. And we don't really have any stacks that we could even do with these players. But I think it's going to be fine when we're drafting 3 quarterbacks. I'm not going to be just dying to have stacks. Maybe it's in a little bit of an oversight by me. Instead, I think we just bring in someone that we are confident is going to start all 16 weeks. Let's bring in a Ben Roethlisberger as our second guy. We're going to be drafting 3 quarterbacks on this team. I'm not going to be confident with just Rodgers and Roethlisberger. But yeah, so far, this is the team. We're going to need to have 1 more quarterback and 1 more tight end with this build. And then we're going to just be going through and drafting 2 more receivers. Obviously, receivers are going to be the best way to go at the very end. Fallon says, what do you think Cam Newton is doing right now? Cam Newton's probably having a lot more fun than I think anybody in this live chat is, to be honest. I bet you Cam Newton is chilling at some penthouse, maybe eating some pizza now that he doesn't necessarily have to be in game shape. He's probably going to go hit a lift tomorrow morning. I imagine that Cam Newton is big chilling right now. I think that, how much money has Cam Newton made through his NFL career? Cam Newton, obviously a bad day for him. But yeah, he's made like $75 million. Probably more than that, to be honest, with endorsements and everything. So I think Cam Newton's probably big chilling. Okay, so Rocket Chet says Ty Johnson will surprise people this year. Yeah, Ty Johnson looks like he has the 3rd down role right now in New York, and it doesn't even look like it's in question. Now, I will say a big thing is we're kind of looking for guys that can score a lot of points at the end of the season, given the fact that the tournament's going to be at the end of the year in this format. Now, Dome Favors is on the clock. This is a team that goes Donovan Peoples-Jones at the 16-12. Definitely a player that's been rising up drafts as of late. Philip says Cam Newton ironing his skirts right now. That's pretty funny, my man. That's pretty funny. Okay, so now after this, let's see where Dome Favors goes. Okay, so he goes Dawson Knox at tight end. That's very intriguing to go with the Dawson Knox. Now, obviously, I'm a fan of Dawson Knox. I mean, drafted in 2019 in that same class as TJ Hawkinson, in that same class as Noah Fant. And you actually have Dawson Knox played at Ole Miss alongside DK Metcalf and AJ Brown. I mean, a pretty intriguing player. Now, I have to look up right now on Twitter a player's name to make sure that I'm not missing something with the guy that we're about to draft. Okay, I think that we're fine to draft him if we want later. Instead, we're actually probably going to go with how many QBs are available? So quarterbacks, you have Carr, Jameis Winston, Goff, Mac Jones. We're probably just going to go with the Jameis. Jameis is like going in like round 14 in drafts right now, which I think is kind of crazy. But knowing that Jameis can go through and just have some crazy spike weeks, we're going to go with the Jameis Winston here as our third QB in the 17th round. So that's why we decided to pass on quarterback earlier when we did. Like if we go through and we show this with where we passed on like this tier of guys when we took a same, I mean, it's because someone asked why we decided not to take a quarterback here in the 15th round. And it's simply, you look at the entire landscape, go, okay, well, most teams already have 2 quarterbacks. Most teams are only going to be drafting 3 at the very most. So we could afford to just go through and wait an extra round. Okay, now let's move this down. You have Blake Jarwin at the 1708. Derek Carr at the 1709 by Chi-Town Truth. That's exactly what I'm saying. When you take Mahomes in the 4th, the advantage that you get is you actually get to wait until the 17th round. You take Derek Carr, and then you're done at the quarterback position. Ty Johnson does go to Derek at the 1711. Ty Johnson, I mean, I think the value at running back here, honestly, was Rashad Penny. Y'all know how I'm a Rashad Penny fanboy. I just think that if anything were to occur to Chris Carson, Rashad Penny looks like a league-winning running back here. Carlos Hyde goes to the 1712. Great value on Carlos Hyde. Maybe I should be taking more running backs in this range. Maybe we shouldn't have gone with the Devin Singletary. Who could have gone with an AJ Green and then get someone like a Tyson Johnson or Carlos Hyde? Am I pronouncing that name correctly, guys? Is it Tyson Johnson or is it Tyson Johnson? Okay, let me type A in the chat if it's Tyson Johnson. Type B in the chat if it's Tyson Johnson. Or type C in the chat if I'm an idiot and it's neither. Okay. So let's pull this back up. Chuba Hubbard's still available. Chuba Hubbard is never available in this range anymore. Dear Lordy, that's surprising. Hopefully we see someone auto-pick John Brown. That would be pretty nice to help us get that $250 donation to the league pot. Okay, so looks like we got some A's in the chat. So it's Tyson Johnson. Okay, that's what I assumed. Just y'all know, I mean, like if y'all listen to those Patreon podcasts where I break down people's teams, y'all know how bad I am at pronouncing names. Now Justice Hill at the 1806. So we're gonna make a pick here. We're probably just gonna go with a Josh Reynolds at a wide receiver. So let's bring in the 9th wide receiver to this team. Okay, people are saying C. Okay, so y'all know I'm stupid. Y'all know I'm stupid. I think that we can all live with that fact by now. Okay, so Josh Reynolds at the 1807, just as someone, or trying to see someone playing snaps, trying to see someone that does have some upside to spike. Mac Jones goes to the 1808. Mac Jones was actually someone that we have been drafting in this range before he was named the starter because he is someone that could be productive during the fantasy football playoffs, which is really what you're looking for here. Now you have Hunter Renfrow. Now, should I have gone instead with like a T.Y. Hilton or a Donovan Peoples-Jones over Ben Roethlisberger and then got Mac Jones in the 18th round? I don't know about that. I don't know. Or possibly we should have gone with a Zach Ertz in the 16th. That's something I just have no idea what the answer is. Okay, so let's see where Slayton Markin decides to take this next pick. He looks like he is auto-drafting, I'm assuming. He goes Tony Jones. Okay, that's a damn good auto-draft. Tyler Conklin. Our guy sniped from us. I actually thought that we were going to get Tyler Conklin in the last round of the draft. Obviously, they go out there and they trade for Chris Herndon. But at the end of the day, I still think that he's honestly not a bad bet to have in this range. I think that's a really sneaky pick because nobody has him in this league. I mean, nobody has him in the entire tournament. James coming out with that donation. Thank you, my man. Says trade DK Metcalf and T. Higgins for Stephon Diggs. Could also trade those two for Kupp and McLaurin. If I did the first, my flex would be the combination of Trey Sermon, Jacoby Myers, or Laviska Shenault. Honestly, no, man. I want Metcalf and T. Higgins over Stephon Diggs. And then for Kupp and McLaurin, I want Higgins and Kupp are close to me. I definitely want Metcalf. Oh, yeah, no, man. I'm not making either trade. I think you want to keep both Metcalf and T. Higgins. Okay, so then Van Jefferson, Zach Pascal. Teddy Bridgewater goes to the 1902. Switches back over. Let me just try to figure something out. Okay, so we have no idea where Slayton Markin is going to go. I mean, they have 7 wide receivers. They have 7 running. How the hell do you draft 7 running backs on this team? They just took 8 running backs. This team is dead. This team is dead with how limited they are at wide receiver. Yeah, this was a if we have multiple $250 donation teams in this, because they go out and I'm assuming that taking Salvon Ahmed here as your 8th running back when you only have 7 wide receivers, that's a dead team in this format. So yeah, this $250 draft, even if it didn't go the exact way, even if we didn't get the stack complete with the Joe Burrow, I think we have a very profitable team here just because I think our team is constructed way better than 99% of these other ones. Now, someone I'd be drafting in almost every single draft in this range would be our guy, Colin Johnson. Now, that is no longer an option, so we're having to look somewhere else. And honestly, the wide receiver is just disgusting at this point. Like, I want to spit on the wide receiver position. There are a few players that we could go extremely. So I hate Tanya. I hate Tanya so much. So we need to avoid someone with the week 12 bye. Are we going Ebron or are we going Dan Arnold? Or Donald Parham, honestly. I think all 3 of these tight ends are in a very similar range. And it looks like, are we missing something? For the love of God, tell me Donald Parham did not get cut. For the love of God, tell me that. Just looked him up on Twitter. For the love of God. He made the roster. He made the roster. Oh my gosh. Guys, I was so worried about that. A big reason why we're taking Donald Parham there is if you actually look at his ADP compared to like the Eric Ebron and players like that, it looks like he's not really getting drafted in this contest whatsoever. So I think it is an intriguing play to go out there and get him. Saram coming out with the donation says, I'm at the 104. How's my team? I missed out on Trey Lance. Let me go through and let's check out Saram's team. Saram, y'all know he comes out to every single live stream. So thank you, my dude. Let's go and let's check out Rummy Rams. Okay, so he drafted at the 104. So he goes Kamara, Joe Mixon, James Robinson at running back. And then we see a little further on, he goes Nyheim Hines, Philip Lindsay. So he has a 5 running back build. I'll say considering getting Alvin Kamara, Joe Mixon, I think that I'm right in line with you. I think a 5 running back build is honestly most likely advantageous. Then at receiver, he goes Allen Robinson, Brandon Ayuk, Devonta Smith, Deebo Samuel, Darnell Mooney. And then a little beyond that. So wide receiver is probably a little weak. Then T.Y. Hilton, Dwayne Eskridge, Hunter Renfrow, Adam Humphries. Yeah, so wide receiver is a little weak. Tight end, you get Noah Fant, Gerald Everett. I am fine just having those 2 tight ends. My thought process here is I probably don't like this Jalen Hurts selection. Like if you're planning on going with another quarterback in this range, I probably prefer getting Henry Ruggs or a running back here. I just think that Jalen Hurts, this is the pick that I don't like. This is the pick that doesn't make much sense for me because I think that when you go with quarterbacks in rounds 10 and 11, taking another in round 14, getting those 3 guys with that type of investment, I don't necessarily love. Really, that's the only thing that I could even find a nitpick about the roster. Now, here in the last round, when we have 5 running backs, when we have 9 receivers, I think we could bring in another running back if we wanted. Let me look this up real quick. Obviously, Xavier. Okay, Jerick McKinnon goes. So, let's look up if we have any news on Darrell Williams. Because what other wide receiver are we going with here? Okay, so Darwin Thompson was released. Okay, so they have 3 running backs currently on the roster. They have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Darrell Williams, and Jerick McKinnon. So who do we see more points out of this upcoming season? I know Jawan Johnson's been someone a lot of people in hyping up. I really don't know the right answer on this question. I don't know what gives us more. Actually, Darrell Williams goes. We're going to take Jawan Johnson. We get the stack with Jameis Winston. It's just a long shot. It's in the 20th round. We're taking someone that's not owned at all in this contest. Maybe Samaje Perine's a better call. Maybe going to running back there's better. I can't sit here and act like I know the right answer on that. I can't sit here and act like I do. Let me show the entire draft board. We'll get a $10 draft going right after this. I see we have a donation from Highlight. Thank you, my dude. I'll be happy to see that. But let me just go through and show off this roster with what we were able to accomplish. I'm very proud of this draft. I think that if we would have ended up getting Joe Burrow, this would have been a much better team. If we could have got Burrow, Aaron Rodgers, then obviously that's fantastic. But the problem is, I mean, obviously we have people coming out here wanting to snipe us because we're on the live stream. We got to live with it. We got to roll with the punches. But let me get a $10 draft set up here for anybody wanting to hop in a $10 draft with us. Maybe we'll get another draft going after this one as well. I mean, I'm feeling good tonight. Y'all can probably tell in my voice. I only recorded like 10 Patreon podcasts today instead of like 20 that we did yesterday. So my voice is feeling a little bit better because last night we had to cut the live stream a little early. But let's go through. Let's set this up. Okay, so let me grab this link. And guys, you're going to see this link out in the live chat right now if you want to be joining our draft. Keep in mind, all our drafts are on Underdog Fantasy. If you want to join this $10 draft, you're going to see $10 draft, and it's going to be a hyperlink right after that. Just click that link, and you should be able to get in. And guys, I'll say this is going to fill like this. It's going to fill ridiculously fast. Like y'all know, we're in the $250 league. We sat around. We waited for a while. We waited for like 5 minutes to get everybody in. This one's going to fill in maybe half a second, maybe 0.1 seconds. So let me send this out. And guys, if you have not used promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy just yet, make sure you go use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. When you make a $10 deposit with promo code FLOCK, you can find the link in the live chat. You can find it in the description of the video. You actually get $25 added to your account. You actually also get our 2021 Fantasy Football Draft Guide, our 2021 rankings and tiers, and you get my love and affection. And we just got... I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to complain, boys. But we just got the 101. We got the 101 in the $10 draft. They didn't want to give it to us in the 250. Let's lock and load them in. CMC. We've talked about this time and time again. Christian McCaffrey is the no-brainer selection at the 101, in my opinion. I mean, it's hard to say that you would be wanting to go with anybody else, to be honest. Christian McCaffrey is the guy that you want at the 101 for so many reasons. Okay, we'll probably try to get another draft going tonight because I know that one. I know this draft filled ridiculously fast, my dudes. Trust me, I understand this draft filled extremely quickly. That's why, like, when we do a $50 draft, when we do a $250 draft, it's a lot easier for people to get in, but pretty much everybody wants to get in a $10 league. And we can go through and we can check out the names in this live stream real quick to see if we have any new people out to the stream. And first off, we're going to get CMC coming out at the 101, of course. And then if we're going through showing off these names, okay, so we have Fantasy Flock. I have seen this guy in the lobby before, and to be completely honest, I have no idea how he can get into so many fantasy drafts. I would assume that based on how stupid this guy looks with what I've seen from his drafts, that he would have gone bankrupt a long time ago. I have no idea how he has a bankroll at all. So surprising to see Fantasy Flock in another draft. This guy, I'm telling you right now, I've seen his drafts before. This is some in-depth analysis with the scouting of these drafters. This guy's a bum. He doesn't know what he's doing. Then Jabin, not seen him out in a live stream. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's gotten in one or two. Hirsch, the same thing here. I have not seen him out in a draft. We got some new people. Steve the Weave, someone that I believe hasn't been on here for about 2 weeks, but he's definitely been in a lot of drafts with us. JK Ooper, this is a regular. Jay Elder, he's been over there on Patreon for a very long time now. Then we have a Get RHCD. Keep in mind, guys, I'm looking at my computer screen. It's a far ways away. I have no idea what the letters mean, but this is a new team. We got Derek out here. We got a regular. We got Fallon, a regular. We got T1s now. This is a new person. We got My Homes as a regular, and we got Rummy Rams also regular. So we got a nice mix of regulars and newcomers to the channel. Okay, so let's go over to highlight real quick. And he says, I'm in a full PPR league and I have a Lamar Jackson and Gus Edwards. Are you comfortable starting them together, or who should I try to trade Gus for? Thanks. Honestly, man, I'm not worried about them starting together whatsoever. I mean, when you had Lamar Jackson blowing up in 2019, you actually had Mark Ingram being a top 12 running back in fantasy on a points per game basis. So I'm completely fine starting them both together. Having Lamar Jackson on my team doesn't make me like or hate Gus Edwards any more or less. So I think we're completely fine with that. And then if we move on a little further, Anthony says, get a $50 one going after this, please. We'll go through. What I'll do is, how about this? Let's set a reasonable goal for the likes on the live stream. Right now, this live stream has on total about 6,000 views. So let's just say if like 12% of those people dropped a like on the live stream, if this live stream gets 650 likes on it, we'll go through, and that's less than the amount of people watching right now. So if you just go down there, drop a like, we get 650 likes, I can guarantee that we'll do another draft after this, my dudes. I promise you we'll do another draft after this one. Okay, so now we have DeAndre Hopkins at the 204. Okay, so Derrick Henry, oh my God, Derrick Henry fell to the 110 in this draft. Now, y'all know I'm lower on Derrick Henry compared to consensus. I have Derrick Henry ranked at like the 106, 107. I think you want to be taking Barkley. You want to be taking Ezekiel Elliott over him. But seeing Stephon Diggs and Tyreek Hill go over Derrick Henry is ridiculous. Derrick Henry at the 110, I will say that is a hell of a value to go out there and get Derrick Henry in that range. Oh my gosh. I've never seen Derrick Henry fall that far. I think that we have drafted him at the 109 previously, and that was probably the furthest that I've seen him fall outside of that. But that's a good value on Derrick Henry. Great pick with Derrick Henry. Very rarely am I actually saying that. Okay, now we're about to be back on the clock. Let's switch this back over. Okay, so when we go with a CMC, I know exactly what we're trying to pull off here. And I know a lot of other people probably know that same thing because we said it in the last draft. We said exactly what I would be wanting to do at the 2-3 turn with a team that we were drafting from the 101. Okay, so DK Metcalf, Darren Waller goes to the 209. That's the same team that took a Devontae Adams in the first. Now you have Hirsch, who went Alvin Kamara in the first. Goes Clyde Edwards-Helaire, CEH, not someone I'm considering when we have Christian McCaffrey here. Christian McCaffrey gives us too high of a floor at the running back position to have to consider drafting Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Okay, so now J-Bin on the clock took Dalvin Cook in the first round, obviously at the 102. So I'm assuming this is maybe Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown. I'm assuming they go Jefferson here. They go A.J. Brown. So instead, we're actually going to go George Kittle. Like I said, we want to be moving up these elite tight ends now that the position looks a little weaker with Irv Smith and Adam Trautman injuries. So we're going to take a George Kittle and a Justin Jefferson to start this draft off. Love this start right here. I mean, I think this is like best case scenario outside of getting Darren Waller falling to, but you're never getting Darren Waller falling to the 2-3 turn now. So I'm happy to see that we get George Kittle. If we did not have the injuries to Adam Trautman, we did not have the injuries to Irv Smith, honestly, I'd be fine with tight end value that we could find later on. I would not necessarily think that those players would get pushed up. And in that instance, we probably would go Justin Jefferson, Keenan Allen. But now the tight end landscape's a little different. I think we actually want to be grabbing George Kittle there. Keenan Allen does go at the 302. And guys, keep in mind, if y'all want another draft after this, let's get 650 likes on the live stream. It's not a big ask whatsoever. Okay, so now CeeDee Lamb goes at the 303. And a Victor says, how much touchdown regression do you expect Aaron Rodgers to have? A significant amount. I mean, if you look at the overall players in that offense, I mean, you had Devontae Adams averaging like 1.28 touchdowns per game this past year. You had a player like Robert Tonyan averaging 20% of his targets actually converting over to touchdowns. Aaron Rodgers led the NFL in touchdown rate, and you actually had Patrick Mahomes in 2018 leading in that category and then seeing a big dip the following season. The same thing with Lamar Jackson in 2019. This is what I talk about all the time. Touchdown volatility, that's going to go up and down season to season. What you want to be chasing is the volume. So I will say that I think a lot of people are already baking that into Aaron Rodgers. A lot of people already understand that concept in fantasy football. People didn't necessarily have that grasp just a few seasons ago, but fantasy football players, guys, I think it's probably because much better content is getting put out here, but fantasy football drafters have gotten significantly better, especially like dynasty fantasy football. Like, Dynasty Fantasy Football is way harder. I'll say 2021 Fantasy Football teams haven't gotten that much better, but Dynasty, it's like a night and day difference. So Alex says, is a Devontae and Aaron stack still viable? Oh my God, man. I have been going and getting Devontae Adams in the first round consistently. Yes, you're going to see the touchdown regression. I actually think it's going to hit Devontae Adams a little less than it's going to hit other players in this offense, because you go through and you have the historical record of Devontae Adams being able to sustain a very high touchdown rate season to season. We already know that's who Devontae Adams is. And I think where you're going to see a lot of touchdown regression come from is most likely going to be from Robert Tonyan, to be completely honest. I'm a little more confident that we're going to see the player like Devontae Adams be able to carry that season to season. So Adams is going to be the guy that I am wanting to go out there and make a bet on. Whereas Robert Tonyan, that's going to be a player that I'm heavily fading. Now, of course, you're not going to see Devontae Adams. I believe the number was 1.28. Y'all know that I memorize some random stats. I can list off a million different fantasy football stats in my head, just because when we spend 24 hours a day just doing fantasy football, it's ingrained in my brain. But yeah, let me do some math real quick. He had 18 touchdowns on 14 games last year. Let me go through and just confirm it's the 1.28. We were right about that. I'm expecting that to most likely come down to more so like a 0.9, a 0.8, which is still a very high mark. But if he's averaging 0.8 touchdowns per game, I mean, he's still by far and away the wide receiver one in fantasy. We already did the math that showed that if you actually take away 10% of Devontae Adams' points per game in healthy games that he played last season, he was still the best wide receiver of all time. So I think he's someone that's probably going to be putting up a top 5 wide receiver season of all time. He's a very high floor, very high ceiling. So I still love Devontae Adams. Okay, so now DJ Moore at the 403. Kayona says, have you ever done a guillotine league? And if so, what are your thoughts? In a guillotine league, you definitely need to be making sure that you're not necessarily valuing players like Javonte Williams, Michael Carter as highly, that are going to be putting up production during the fantasy football playoffs. However, you need to be looking at guys like a Melvin Gordon. You need to be looking at guys that are going to be putting up production at the beginning of the season and viewing them almost in the same light. Production at the beginning of the year matters just as much as production at the end of the season. So definitely want to just go out there and make an adjustment on, we're more so chasing players that are going to put up the most points possible. Very similar to what we're doing in this draft right now, where in this draft right now, there's no fantasy football playoffs here. It's just who scores the most points, who scores the second most points, who scores the third most points through the entire season. Okay, so Julio Jones goes to the 406. We didn't have access to any, there's no chance that any of these receivers were falling to us regardless. So I can't sit here and throw a fit about anything. Okay, guys, reminder, if we get 600 likes on this live stream, we will go through and get 650 likes on this live stream. We'll go through and get another draft going after this one. That's literally just, if you haven't dropped a like on the live stream, do it, and we'll get another draft going. We'll get either a $10 draft or a $50 draft. What I'm going to do is I'm going to send out a poll in the live chat. I'm just going to ask y'all what y'all want to see. And now, Jerry Jeudy goes to the 408. So, I mean, the wide receivers are getting really thin here. Y'all know Kyle Pitts, not someone I'm considering, especially when we take a Kittle at the 2-3 turn. There's no way in hell I can take Kyle Pitts. Josh Allen goes to the 409. Honestly, kind of happy to see Josh Allen go. I wasn't necessarily wanting to draft him either. So let's see. Deontay Johnson at the 410. DeAndre Swift goes right before us. Okay, so our initial plans when we're going to be going through and drafting a team here would have been to most likely get like a DeAndre Swift. But I think when we take a Jefferson, we can set up that stack, and it's not going to be as big of a deal if we don't complete it. I'm going through and drafting as if we weren't on a live stream, and I'm going through and drafting as if this is just at 2 p.m. when y'all know I'm in these drafts all the time, and I'm going through and trying to build the team that I would want to see. So I know that it's less likely that we get Kirk Cousins at a relatively good price to complete the Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen double stack, but still we want to at least be going out there and attempting it. And we're also going to get Miles Sanders because the receivers in this range have just been soaked up to the point where I don't necessarily think that we're getting any edge whatsoever at receiver. So we're going to go with an Adam Thielen and a Miles Sanders. So we are going to be getting a double stack in here if we can complete Kirk Cousins a little later on. Okay, Claypool goes to the 503. This is the latest I have seen DeAndre Swift fall in a very long time. A very long time. Okay, Darrell Henderson goes to the 504. Oh my gosh. Okay, so Steve the Weave, if we're looking at his team right now, I probably prefer passing on a Josh Allen in the 4th. I probably prefer getting either DeAndre Swift or Miles Sanders here, whoever you prefer. And then instead, just getting Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson in the 5th. Like, I don't necessarily see that big of a gap between a Josh Allen, between a Kyler, between a Lamar Jackson to feel the need to go out there and draft a Josh Allen at the 4 and 9. So that is 100% something that I would want to go out there and actually change. So we have Jacobs going at the 505. Josh Jacobs, someone I've drafted in a lot of leagues just because he's fallen to a range where, I mean, are you taking Josh Jacobs or are you taking Odell Beckham Jr.? That's a really difficult question to answer. Okay, so now we have Lamar Jackson at the 506. Someone I've been drafting in the 5th a lot. Jamar Chase, we actually just took him at the 506, but we took him in a league where we are going through and trying to chase points for the fantasy football playoffs. I think that Jamar Chase may be a little less exciting here where points in week 1 matter just as much as points in week 16 because we know the reason you're taking Chase is the elite level upside that you could have at the end of the season. So here, I don't love him in the 5th round, but y'all remember, I mean, the rule that we have for the 5th round is there is no such thing as a bad selection by the time we get to the 5th round because this entire tier is just disgusting. I mean, I think like the wide receivers in this range, they're not that different than the wide receivers that are going in like round 8, to be honest. I mean, a Deebo Samuel's not that much different than a Curtis Samuel. Okay, so now we have, let's go through. TJ Hawkinson at the 511. Okay, this is what I actually saw. Like, I was actually in some puppy drafts earlier today where we were seeing these tight ends move up until the 4-5 turn. I don't know if that's just me in a couple drafts and making it a bigger deal than it actually is. But I think we're going to start to see these tight ends slide up. I really think it's going to be more and more important to go and get those tight ends where you only have to draft one more and you can feel very comfortable about their upside. Okay, so Leo says, honestly, Kyler over Josh Allen in a 4-point passing touchdown format. I actually have Lamar Jackson in a 4-point passing touchdown format ranked over both of them, to be honest. I mean, I think that Lamar, given his rushing upside that you see, I think that that is actually the direction that I'm going to be going with. Now we have Brandon coming out with a donation. Thank you, my man. It says, rate my draft, 12-team PPR, pick 2, Kirk, Cook, Henderson, Ridley, A-Rob, Julio, Hawkinson, Lockett. Bench is Trey Sermon, Trey Lance, Will Fuller, and Alexander Madison. So I'll say this is something that I've seen commonly for teams that are wanting to get a Trey Lance, that they take Christian Kirk at the same time because Kirk does have a very good beginning of the schedule. So I like that idea. And then you also make the bet with Dalvin Cook. I'll say that what I would try to accomplish on this team, to be honest, is I would try to get an upgrade at receiver if we could. Like if we could go through, I think you have enough depth and you have enough studs at the receiver position at the top with guys like Ridley, A-Rob, and Julio Jones, that if we're looking at Tyler Lockett as someone that's potentially going to be in your flex, if we could, once we get Trey Lance starting, and we could try to make a trade where we're including one of the quarterbacks to a player like a Tyler Lockett and just getting a slightly more stable option in here, like getting like a Chris Godwin, that'd be something that I'd probably like. Outside of that, it's a very good team. It's a very good team. Okay, so now let's switch this over. Okay, so at the 6-7 turn, a big reason why I don't like taking Miles Sanders is when we take Miles Sanders here. Okay, Gus Edwards goes to the 608. Dear Lord, is that good value on Gus Edwards? I mean, that's fantastic. Going after Mike Davis, Gus Edwards is a fantastic pick there. But we're less likely to like the running backs that, I mean, we'll like the running backs the same, but we're less likely to be wanting to draft the running backs in this range when we take a Miles Sanders and we have CMC, because a big edge that we get with Christian McCaffrey is the fact that we're already going to be able to just crush our league mates at running back, and we can get these wide receivers later on. Oh my gosh, this is tough. We're going to go with the Kenny Golladay here for one of these picks. We're going to go with the Golladay, and if we were playing in a league where I had the fantasy football playoffs at the end, we're 100% taking the Trey Sermon here. But I don't necessarily see exactly what Trey Sermon does for us in this exact format where we're trying to find points throughout the entire season. So we're going to take a pick that I know a million people are going to scream at me. A million people are going to hate it. It is what it is, though. This is my draft, my team. Let's get Juju. I think that we kind of have to go receiver here, knowing that, I mean, if we take another running back, I'm just going to be so upset with the receivers that we're going to be looking at later in the draft. So if you want to make an argument that we need to be going with Devonta Smith over Juju Smith-Schuster, then sure, you can make that argument. But we're looking for guys that are going to score points right away. Dante coming out with a donation. Thank you, my man. Says 10-man standard quarterback has Stafford, Winston. A wide receiver is Stephon Diggs, Keenan Allen, Cortland Sutton, Marquez Callaway. Running back is Zeke, James Robinson, Gus Edwards, Myles Gaskin, and Damian Harris. Tight end is Mark Andrews, Mike Gesicki. My man, I really like that team. One problem that I see with it, though, is I actually think in a 10-man format, you're maybe making a mistake in actually rostering 2 quarterbacks and 2 tight ends. I think if you could go through, if you could possibly package together, just say someone like a Mike Gesicki, a James Winston, and then throw them in on whatever running back or wide receiver upgrade that you would want. Like package together Winston, Callaway, Gesicki, and try to get a receiver from Callaway, like try to go up and get someone in the tier of someone like a Brandon Ayuk. That's going to be very appealing because in reality, Winston, Gesicki, they're not going to be doing that much for you with this team construction. And at the same time, there are going to be a bunch of other quarterbacks just like Jameis Winston on the waiver wire. So yeah, I don't necessarily want to be rostering a backup. Then Dylan coming out with the donation. Thank you, my man. Says, need a running back 2, 12-man. Would you rather trade Darren Waller, Raheem Mostert for Antonio Gibson and Mark Andrews, or trade Tyler Lockett and Philip Lindsay for Miles Sanders and Brandon Cooks? I will say I love both of those deals, to be completely honest. Now, I think that my preferred trade, to be frank, would probably be Darren Waller and Raheem Mostert for Antonio Gibson and Mark Andrews, because I think that, I mean, moving to Mark Andrews from Darren Waller is, yes, definitely a downgrade, but going from Raheem Mostert to Antonio Gibson is just a smash. That's definitely going to be my side. Now, from here, we have Edmonds, Trey Sermon in the middle of round 7. But we do have those wide receivers going directly after we take Golladay and Juju Smith-Schuster. So you actually have J-Ben here doing a very similar build that we have so far. And I think this is kind of what you need to be accomplishing when you get a CMC or when you get a Dalvin Cook at the very beginning of the draft. You need to be making sure that you're bringing in these receivers in a league where you have to start 3 of them and you have the flex. While yes, it would be nice to continue to see this running back value here. I'll agree with a lot of people in the chat that someone like a Trey Sermon would have been like, there's just a ton of sex appeal just centered around building in a roster that has Trey Sermon in it. But if we're talking about raw points, I actually think that a wide receiver is going to fit the construction a lot more. And then also, guys, remember, if we hit 650 likes on the live stream right now, we will go through and we'll get another draft going. And we get these drafts going every single night. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the bell next to the subscribe button if you want to come out to our next live stream. Now we have Mecole Hardman, Darnell Mooney. Okay, so I'm honestly kind of hoping that, I guess when we pass on the running backs in the 6-7 turn, if we do like a running back that falls to us in the 8-9 turn, we could go that route. Also, we can go quarterback. Keep in mind, we have yet to draft a quarterback, and there are going to be a lot of guys that we could be potentially looking at in the coming rounds. Okay. Jared says, how much is the draft right now? This is just a $10 draft. The last draft that we did was a $250 one. And if we get 650 likes in the live stream and get another draft going after this, then we'll be doing a poll in the live chat between if y'all want a $10 or a $50 league. I guess now Jalen Waddle goes to the 806. Michael Pittman at the 807. Let's transition this back over. So quarterbacks, like I said, I mean, obviously we don't have a stack in here with a Herbert or an Aaron Rodgers, but to be completely honest, there's such good values here. We don't need the stack. So we could potentially go with the Justin Herbert, Aaron Rodgers here anyway. And we have these 3 teams already having quarterbacks. J.K. Ooper as Russell Wilson, Steve as Josh Allen, and you have Hirsch with Dak Prescott. So there's a real chance that we actually get one of Justin Herbert, Aaron Rodgers falling to us. Rodgers goes to 809 to Steve the Weave. This is the team that ended up taking Devontae Adams in the 1st. So yeah, I hate how that Josh Allen pick looks. I mean, I hate it in the 4th. I definitely hate it now. Now, J-Ben, this is a team that is yet to... Okay, so he's going Justin Herbert, guys. I mean, he has Keenan Allen. He goes Curtis Samuel. Oh, dear Lord. I have figured he had no quarterback. I thought he had no quarterback and he had Keenan Allen. 100% the pick was Justin Herbert. I'm legitimately surprised to see him not go that route. So we're going to go bring in a receiver that I like in an offense that I like in DJ Chark. And we get Justin Herbert here as our quarterback in the 9th round. Oh my God. I think that was a massive mistake going Curtis Samuel there over Justin Herbert on a team that you have Keenan Allen on, and you're getting that kind of value on him. I mean, I was almost certain that you had Justin Herbert going off of the 8-11 right here. And after this, you got Marvin Jones at the 902. So DJ Chark, Marvin Jones now going back to back in these drafts. I think honestly, DJ Chark is a player with a lot more upside compared to what we have seen with Marvin Jones through his NFL career. Marvin Jones has been a very quality wide receiver too. But I don't know about this. I don't know about seeing DJ Chark fall to the 8-12. Now Ronald Jones at the 904 by Steve the Weave. Okay, so this is a team bringing in a lot of running backs. He has Henderson, Harris, Gaskin, and Ronald Jones as his 4 running backs so far through this build. In the last draft, we actually, I believe, got Ronald Jones in the middle of the 10th round. So keep in mind, in the last draft, that's a big reason I went wide receiver early, is because I was confident that we'd be able to get those running backs later. Sam says week 7 is going to kill you. Let's check out week 7 real quick. Week 7 is going to be brutal. Not going to lie. Week 7 is going to be brutal. We have 4 bye weeks on week 7 at receiver. Also, Justin Herbert there as well. I will say that I'm not necessarily considering that much with the receiver room when we're going to have so many guys on the roster. However, if we're going to be only drafting 2 quarterbacks and 2 tight ends like we will be with this team, we do need to be double checking to make sure that those quarterbacks and those tight ends aren't going to line up on the same bye. Okay, so Rondell Moore at the 909. And then we have somebody in the chat says 2019 was peak Golladay. The man is washed. Trust me, guys, when Kenny Golladay was going before this range, when he was going back consistently, he was going in every draft ahead of Sutton, Shenault, Boyd, AB, Robbie Anderson, Odell, Deebo Samuel. I mean, he was going up here with literally like the T. Higgins, Julio Jones. He was going extremely high earlier in drafts. I was saying to avoid Kenny Golladay, but he has fallen to a very late point where I think we are now fine drafting Kenny Golladay at the 6-7 turn. Okay, so Zach Moss at the 1001. And guys, if you're just now joining the live stream, make sure if y'all want to get in a draft with us, make sure if y'all want to just get in a 2021 fantasy football draft in a public lobby or anything, and you want to be just becoming a better drafter, these are real money leagues. You go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. The link is in the description of the video. I mean, you're going to be able to go out there, make a $10 deposit with promo code FLOCK, and you will be able to get $25 added to your account. So you are getting paid money to do 2021 fantasy football drafts. You're also going to get our 2021 rankings, our 2021 tiers. You're going to get our 2021 draft guide. So guys, it makes so much sense, and you help the channel dramatically. You're getting probably, those draft guides are hundreds of pages of information. I would say if we were selling them, they'd probably be $80, I guess, a package. And you're getting them for a $10 deposit on Underdog Fantasy. Make sure you go and take advantage. Matthew coming out with a donation. Thank you, my man. Says 12-man PPR, rate my team. Stafford, Zeke, Jacobs, Ridley, Julio, Goddard, Juju, Higgins, Mostert. Okay, I really like the fact that you're actually going through and you are just balancing your roster out across these positions, and you're not necessarily going and rostering backup quarterbacks and backup tight ends. Now, if I'm going to, obviously, if we're going to be rating it, you have a wide receiver 1 with Calvin Ridley. I mean, a high-end wide receiver 1. You have a low-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2 with Julio Jones. You got a wide receiver 2, in my opinion, in T. Higgins. You have wide receiver 3 with Juju. So your wide receiver room is very strong. You have Zeke running back 1, Jacobs a running back 2. Mostert, not a big fan of, but we can say that he's a nice step. I really like that team. I think that's a strong team. And honestly, there's nothing I can necessarily do to go out there and advise you to make it better. If you could trade Julio Jones for Robert Woods to get a Matthew Stafford and Robert Woods stack in, that'd be very appealing, but I don't necessarily know if you're going to be able to pull that off. Now Ruggs goes at the 1008, and here I don't even know what we're going to be looking at. I guess we could go running back. We could also bring in actually, we're not going to be looking QB here probably. I think when we take Justin Herbert, we're probably just going to be going through and rostering 2 guys, and we don't necessarily need to get players in this range. So this is why we took wide receivers a little earlier, because we can look now at these running backs in this tier. Okay, so a wide receiver, Bryan Edwards would be the top player available. You know what? We may just end up getting a quarterback here in Matthew Stafford. No, we can't. We have a quarterback that we're eyeing later on. We're going to get a James Conner. At this point, we're looking for running backs that are going to have roles in their offenses and that they could turn into 3-down players if an injury were to occur as well. So if we get Conner, the thing is, can I take another running back here? Mike Gesicki is a decent value as well. We have George Kittle. The problem is receiver is just so soaked up. We're going to go Kenyon Drake. We're going Kenyon Drake. I don't love it. I mean, especially with this team, with CMC, I think the reason you take CMC, I mean, obviously there are a million reasons you take CMC, but a big reason that he provides you such a large advantage is just because you don't have to worry about running back later on. So I hate going running back here and like passing up on a Bryan Edwards. But I think they're going to be the best value available. I don't know if we probably have to draft a fifth. We have to draft a fifth. We're going to go with the build 2 quarterbacks, 5 running backs, 9 receivers, and 2 tight ends. Now, Dylan comes out, says 12 team, Kyler, CMC, Mostert, Ridley, Lockett, Waller, Juju. I mean, obviously, we don't have the entire team here. Go try to trade Calvin Ridley for DeAndre Hopkins. Go try to trade Calvin Ridley and get the stack in with Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins. And also, your running back 2 is weak, but you have CMC, so it doesn't really matter. Now, after we take Kenyon Drake, got Tony Pollard, Jamal Williams, both going off the board. Then Emmanuel Sanders, Bryan Edwards. So Bryan Edwards, I think that you have to take him now over Emmanuel Sanders. I mean, now that you have John Brown getting cut from his team, I mean, is Bryan Edwards not the clear call there? I think Bryan Edwards is 100% the pick. Now, A. Dean coming out with a donation says, PPR with massively good receivers. Would you trade Devontae Adams for Tom Brady, Josh Jacobs, DJ Moore? Running back is weak, and my wide receivers are stacked for reference. Honestly, no. Tom Brady in just a regular 2021 redraft PPR league, given the fact that he has no rushing upside, I know it's lame to say Tom Brady's... literally, guys, I'm living in Tampa. I'm going to be rooting for the Tampa Bay Bucks this year because I just moved to Tampa. But still, not necessarily viewing Tom Brady in that elite tier of fantasy quarterbacks because he doesn't have the rushing capability. Honestly, I just keep Devontae Adams. And then James comes out with a donation, says, T. Higgins, Darrell Henderson for Joe Mixon. Yes, I'd make that trade. Go get Joe Mixon. Okay, so Leonard Fournette at the 1109, Devin Singletary, Nyheim Hines. At this point, we want to see these running backs go. We need to see receivers falling to us. When we pass on receiver in this last round, it was a call that was hard to make. Also, I mean, we almost considered going Matthew Stafford or Justin Fields, and both of those quarterbacks are still available. So thank God we didn't go with them with how this overall room is just evaluating the quarterback position. Shepard at the 1110. Cole Beasley. Okay, so we do have these. Okay, so Saram is on the clock. Saram is yet to draft a quarterback yet. So he goes Mike Gesicki as his second tight end. Is he really going to pass on this tier of QBs? Okay, so he goes Stafford. And let's pull up his team real quick. He didn't have a stack with Matthew Stafford, but yeah, he was the best player available. Kind of had to go with him. I mean, Rummy Rams, just a fantastic team right here. Out in every single live stream. I think he's crushing this draft. Eckler, Taylor, Montgomery, and then Zach Moss at running back. At receiver, Mike Evans, Odell, Robbie Anderson, Mecole Hardman, Hollywood Brown. And I tied in against Logan Thomas, Mike Gesicki. Mike Gesicki was ridiculous value. I mean, I almost consider taking Mike Gesicki over here, and we have George Kittle. That's fantastic. Okay, Fallon says he loves to start. Let's go check out Fallon's team as well. Real quick, Fallon, another person that's out in every single one of these live streams. So he was drafting at the 109. He gets Diggs, Hopkins, Godwin. Then James Robinson here. I really do like getting James Robinson in a format like this where we don't have to consider the tournament aspect and that other teams got him at a cheaper price point. We're just more so hunting players that are going to be scoring a lot of points. So I do like James Robinson here. And then Kyler Murray at the 509 to stack with Hopkins. Mike Davis at the 604 to find running back volume. Probably prefer Gus. I definitely prefer Gus Edwards over Mike Davis. I will say that. Mike Evans at the 709 we like. Raheem Mostert at the 804. Not a big fan of Mostert, to be honest. It sucks that you miss out on this running back. Like, if you would have had one of these running backs from this tier making back to the 7-9, that would have been ridiculous. Then you have Rondale Moore. I'm so sorry. And then we have Jacoby Myers, Leonard Fournette, Gabriel Davis. Probably would have gone with Zach Moss or Melvin Gordon over Rondale Moore here. Like, I would have preferred the combination Jalen Waddle, Zach Moss to Raheem Mostert, Rondale Moore. It's also something I would change. Okay, let's go through and let's look at where we're going to be going with our next selection. So we need wide receiver here, guys. We need wide receiver. We don't know what's going to make it to us. We only have 5 receiving options on this team. We could go with another quarterback. Gerald Everett goes to the 1208. Steve the Weave has 2 QBs. He's not going with one. He probably goes receiver here. He has 4 running backs as well. And his 4 running backs are Darrell Henderson, Damian Harris, Myles Gaskin, Ronald Jones. So I guess he does wait on running back. He gets elite wide receivers at the top with like Devontae Adams. He gets MVS to stack with Aaron Rodgers. So the running backs are still looking intriguing in this range. Like, you get a Ramondre Stevenson here. These running backs, they're trying to pull me in. They're trying to pull me in. We could get Lawrence and stack him with a DJ Chark. Actually, we can't get Lawrence because he has the same bye week as a Justin Herbert. Lawrence goes regardless. Not considering these players. I think that we're locking in AJ Green. AJ Green's going to be one of these picks. This is going to be a gross turn. And I know this does not look exciting at all. We're honestly not even going to go with an AJ Green either. We're not going Green. We're going to go Paris Campbell with the T.Y. Hilton injury. And we're going to go Tyrell Williams with Brashad Perriman getting cut. So we're bringing in some very boring wide receivers where there are much better names around this range. But I think that these wide receivers are going to give us what we need. And it's boring. But you have Randall Cobb, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Traquan Smith going before him. So I don't hate the value. And they both get a bump up given what has happened this week with the other wide receivers in their offenses. So yeah, we're going to go Campbell and Tyrell Williams. Fallon says, I only took Rondale Moore because I had Kyler Murray. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Sorry. I'm completely sorry that I overlooked that, my man. Okay, so Ramondre Stevenson does go at the 1302. I couldn't consider a running back in that range. We've already invested too much into running back. Then Rob Gronkowski at the 1303 ahead of Gerald Everett. Oh, no, Gerald Everett went at the 1208. I'm sorry. I was going to say if Rob Gronkowski went ahead of Gerald Everett, that was a horrendous pick. I guess now that you miss out on Everett, it's kind of whatever. But Gerald Everett was a fantastic value, as well as Jonnu Smith. You get Jonnu Smith with Mac Jones being named the starter at the 1202 here. That is fantastic. And Caden says, are you doing another draft? Yes, guys. Like I said, if we get 650 likes on this live stream, we've had almost 10,000 views on this live stream. So 650 likes is very few. That's like 10% of the people dropping a like on the stream. Then we'll go through and get another draft going after this. Okay, JD McKissick at the 1306. Let's get these running backs going off. I want these running backs off the board. Give us guys that we're going to like at other positions making it back. Now, if we're looking at best player available right now, I mean, it looks like you have these quarterbacks falling a decent amount. But this is the team that I honestly don't like how we pulled this together. I think that we were put in some awkward spots and we didn't necessarily come through. Okay, so Evan Ingram at the 1309. Ingram's going pretty damn early. Did we have some positive Evan Ingram injury news today? Let me look this up real quick. Because I'm honestly kind of surprised to see where Evan Ingram's going. Okay, so I'm looking at this. So he's at risk for missing week 1. It looks like he's questionable for week 1. Okay, so he's not someone that we have to consider. We don't have to drastically drop him down our rankings. Okay, that's good. That's good. Baker Mayfield goes to the 13-12. Amara St. Brown makes it to the 14-01. Honestly, I'm probably drafting Amara St. Brown over AJ Green, over KJ Hamler, over Rashad Bateman in this specific league format. Bateman obviously is a way better wide receiver. And if you're playing in a tournament style where we need points in the fantasy football playoffs, then we prefer a Rashad Bateman. But instead, I think that we actually would rather have an Amara St. Brown when we know that points are going to matter equally throughout the entire season. So yeah, I think here, Amara St. Brown, that's a fantastic pick. Matt Ryan at the 1402. And then Andrew subscribing to the channel. Let me go and give some shout outs to everybody subscribing real quick. We've got Andrew, John, Dominic, Joey, Daniel, Soul, Casey, No Turn, Jared, Adnan, Joseph, Joshin, Love the Jets, Dylan, Aiden. Thank you all so much for subscribing. We've had a ton of new people coming out finding the live stream tonight, guys. If y'all don't know, we live stream every single night, Real Money Fantasy Drafts, and we do not get our guy. Derek takes Kirk Cousins at the 1405. Fantastic value with Kirk Cousins. Maybe a mistake that we decided to go with a receiver here instead of Cousins. A big thing is, though, I mean, we kind of put ourselves in a scenario where maybe we should have been a little more careful, but when we draft Justin Herbert with the week 7 bye, it's going to be hard to take Kirk Cousins with the week 7 bye. So, yeah, we set up that stack, and we ended up taking Herbert. This is a mistake. I don't know if this is a learning lesson because I don't know how much I can take away from this and go, okay, well, Mason, make sure you check out the future stacks that you may want. Maybe in a slow draft, we can do that. With a 30-second timer when I'm live streaming, it's a lot harder to go through and do that in-depth research on the team that we have already drafted. But yeah, I'm really liking our decision to go receiver with our last 2 picks with Paris Campbell, Tyrell Williams, because now the receivers that you're looking at are like Christian Kirk, Byron Pringle, Deshaun Jackson, Josh Palmer, Quez Watkins. So I think we definitely made the correct decision in that. Now we're going to be pulling this up. I think that we're probably going to go with the Tua Tagovailoa here. And if we go with Tua, we're possibly going to be good with just drafting 2 quarterbacks in this team. We're going to go with the Tua, and then I think that we possibly take Giovanni Bernard, and we're going to take Gio, and then we're going to be done at 5 running backs. Yeah, let's take Gio. We're done at 5 running backs. We're done at running back and quarterback. So we're only receiver tight end from here on out. Only receiver tight end from here on out. Let's go through, check out this team. We drafted from the 101. We have CMC, Miles Sanders, James Conner, Kenyon Drake, Giovanni Bernard at running back. We have an elite tight end in George Kittle. At receiver, we have Jefferson, Thielen, Galladay, Juju, Chark, Paris Campbell, Tyrell Williams. Just guys that are going to get a lot of snaps on their offenses. That's what we kind of need in a format like this. And then we also have Justin Herbert and Tua Tagovailoa, some 2020 rookie quarterbacks, obviously, guys, going into year 2 this season. Okay, so now we have a Byron Pringle at the 1503. Yeah, so wide receivers going to get ugly. We are going to be drafting 9 receivers on this team, so we don't necessarily have to stress too much, especially when we have guys like Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen. So we're not going to be stressing too much at receiver, but we definitely need to be bringing in 9. And then Quez Watkins at the 1504. I don't think I've drafted Quez Watkins in a single league. Like, let me pull this up real quick and see how many leagues we've drafted Quez Watkins in. I know Watkins is someone that very fast, but we really that excited about drafting him in the 15th round? Let me pull up. What exactly did he do in the preseason to make a lot of people this excited? Like, if I pull this up right now with what Quez Watkins has done so far this preseason, obviously we are box score scouting right now, so we're not doing much at all. So against Pittsburgh, he had 1 long reception for 79 yards and touchdown. And then against New England, let's pull this up. Oh my God, apparently I cannot click on that button. Against New England, he had nothing. Did not have a single reception. Don't even know if he played. Like I said, on box score scouting, I'm very, very lazy right now and providing not much analysis whatsoever. And against New York, he had, if I'm looking correctly, nothing. Looks like Quez Watkins had 1 big reception this preseason, and now he's going in the 15th round. I think that's very hard. I think I prefer Josh Palmer. I prefer someone that could just be playing alongside Justin Herbert on, I don't want to say an every down role, but he could be playing in a lot of 3 wide receiver sets, and we know that's going to be a much more productive overall offense. Okay. Party Till She's Hot says a $50 draft next. My man, if we get 650 likes in this live stream right now, which I believe we are 40 likes away, we will get another draft going. I'm 1,000,000% sure we're going to hit that mark. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask y'all in the live chat with a poll if y'all want a $10 or a $50 draft. We haven't done a poll option in a while, so I'll give y'all the choice to choose. I'll give you all the choice. Okay, so now draft some damn running backs. Give us some receivers that we like. Give us some receivers that we like falling to us. Because we need 2 more receivers and 1 more tight end. Malcolm Brown going into 1602. Okay, good. We like to see that pick. We like to see that pick. Selfishly, we like to see that pick. Okay, so now after this, let's pull it up. I mean, quarterbacks seem like they must be a fantastic value here, and I'm not seeing any go off the board. Like you have Winston, Fitzpatrick, Wilson, Darnold, Carr, Wentz. Maybe, just maybe we go 3 QBs here. Like if there's nothing that we like at receiver, obviously we're going to have to draft at least one more receiver. But if we're going to be in the range of like Alan Lazard, Dwayne Eskridge, Nico Collins, Brashad Perriman, obviously we can't take Perriman now. Like realistically, do these receivers give us any more points than taking a third quarterback gives us? I don't know. I don't think so. I think maybe going 3 QBs here could be an advantage. Going 3 quarterbacks, 5 running backs, 8 receivers, 2 tight ends. Irv Smith, we're just looking for a floor at tight end right now. We have George Kittle. We're not going to be taking Irv Smith. I should probably stop talking because obviously we have back-to-back picks coming up and I don't want to just get sniped on one of the players that we're going to look at. So all the receivers are the exact same for me in this range. Like right now at receiver, what's the main difference between like a Josh Reynolds and a Dwayne Eskridge? All right, like I don't think there's that big of a gap. So if we were going to draft a quarterback, it's going to be right now. If we were going to draft a quarterback, it's right now, and we're looking for someone with a lot of upside, preferably someone that can stack in with the player that we've already drafted. Oh my gosh. Do we want to take Zach Wilson here? We're going to take Zach Wilson and a tight end. Take Zach Wilson. Maybe 3 quarterbacks here is a mistake. Keep in mind, this is a best ball format. We don't have access to the waiver wire. And then at tight end, do we just take Adam Troutman? We also have to make sure that we can't take Troutman. He has a week 6 bye. So we're going to take Blake Jarwin with a week 7 bye instead. Pat Freiermuth is going to be a much more appealing option in terms of someone that we would have if we were going and hunting some pure upside in a tournament style. But now we're just trying to beat these 11 other people, and that's all we care about. So if we're just trying to beat these 11 other people, I think that Blake Jarwin probably is just going to be a higher floor player. And that's what we're looking at when we have someone like a George Kittle. Okay, so let's keep on scrolling down. Show everybody this entire draft board. And guys, if you are just now coming into this live stream, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We live stream every single night, real money fantasy football drafts. And now Dominic coming out with a donation. Thank you, my man. Says, CMC, James Robinson, Calvin Ridley. Dominic comes out and he sends us a draft that he got CMC, Ridley, Stephon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb all on. With Gus Edwards, man, I will say that if you're playing in a 10-man or a 12-man format, you have the best team I've ever seen. I'm assuming that this is probably an 8-man or a 6-man league. And if it's a 6-man league, it's an okay, like it's a good team. It's not that great, but if that's a 10-man league or a 12-man league, that is okay. He says 12-man PPR. You're literally just playing with children. You have to be playing with children. There's no other explanation for that. Okay. But now let's go through and see what we're going to be looking at. With the last round, we're just going receiver. We're just going receiver no matter what. We're going to be drafting 9 receivers in this team. Boss Man says Blake Jarwin is solid, but Dalton Schultz is going to eat too. Yeah, man, I will say that if Dalton Schultz wasn't on the Dallas Cowboys, if you actually had Blake Jarwin locked and loaded as the tight end that we're seeing all the routes run there, then Blake Jarwin would be going way before this. Blake Jarwin would be going before Rob Gronkowski if you knew that Dalton Schultz wasn't going to get any snaps. If we just knew 100% sure that he was going to be playing every single snap for the Dallas Cowboys and that pass happy of an offense, he would be up here with an Evan Ingram, a Cole Kmet. He'd be right after Gerald Everett. Like, he'd be in this range. So when you're drafting Blake Jarwin at the 1701, it's knowing that Dalton Schultz is going to be there. Okay, guys, 17 more likes, and we get another draft going after this one. Make sure you go down there and drop that like. Okay, so now we have Pat Freiermuth at the 1803. Demarcus Robinson at the 1805. Okay, so let's switch this over real quick. So the 1812, we're probably going to be bringing in Josh Reynolds, to be honest. I mean, Reynolds, actually, no, god dang it. Of course, Rummy Rams goes Josh Reynolds. I thought that for sure we were getting Josh Reynolds with the last pick here. And to be completely honest, what I would have been doing just a few nights ago is I would have been taking John Brown. So all those John Brown teams that I took are just completely dead now. So if we're looking for a receiver, do we just go Nico Collins? Zach Pascal could be interesting as well. We took Campbell on this team. Pascal could be interesting because if T.Y. Hilton was out for the year, we know Zach Pascal's a fantastic pick here. We don't know how long. Okay, Zach Pascal goes anyway. Colin Johnson would have been a name that we were looking at. Obviously, we can no longer do that. So instead, Olamide Zaccheaus now. We're just going to go with the Nico Collins. Let's go with the Nico Collins and let's set up another draft here. I'm going to be sending out a poll in the live chat asking y'all what kind of buy-in y'all want because we hit 650 likes in the live stream. Thank you, everybody, my dudes. I'm asking y'all what y'all want right now with a $50 or a $10 draft. And keep in mind, guys, if y'all want to get in these drafts, I live stream drafts every single night. Every single night. So all you have to do is make sure you go sign up for Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK. That way you can get in these drafts with us. And then you can also get $25 added to your account with a $10 deposit. You also get our 2021 Fantasy Football Draft Guide, our 2021 Fantasy Football Rankings and Tiers, which are all going to be updated to the start of the season. And our Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide. I mean, literally, you're getting paid $25 to do fantasy drafts. You're probably getting an $80 value just for a $10 deposit and using promo code FLOCK. And you help out the channel a ton. So please make sure you go out there and do that. Okay, so we just sent that question out in the chat right now. If y'all are wanting to see a $10 or a $50 draft, make sure y'all go down there and vote on that. And that way we can get something set up. And do not join anything in the public lobby. Do not join anything in the public lobby. We're going to go through and we are going to set up a private draft for whatever wins. Okay, so let's end this right now. Let's end that poll, see where we ended up. I think $50 draft won. Did the $50 draft win? It's going to be an expensive live stream. $50 draft won. The reason I did a poll is I thought $10 draft, I thought $10 was 100% going to win. I guess not. So let's set up a $50 private draft. Send this link out in the live chat. It's just going to say $50 draft here, and then it's going to have a hyperlink right after it. So just make sure you go out there and join that. Okay. $50 draft. And we just sent that out, my dudes, for anybody wanting to come out here and join this league. I'd imagine this feels a little slower than a 10-man league, but we have 600 people out in this live stream right now. I'd imagine that these 11 spots get taken pretty damn fast. It's not going to be like what you actually had with the $250 league where we had to sit here for a second. Okay, so we got 3 spots available. So I'm assuming that if you wanted in this league, it looked like it went a little slower than the $10. So maybe you probably got a good chance to get in. The 109. We haven't drafted from the 109 in a decent amount of time. So I'm honestly kind of excited. I hate the 109 spot. I mean, your teams always look so ugly when you draft from the 109. But it's a challenge at the very minimum. It's a challenge that I think that we can go through and we can try to dominate. I know exactly what we're going to be trying to do at the 109. I'm not going to say it out loud. I wish I could like write it down and show you all on a piece of paper after. Okay, but Derek getting in another draft at the 101. Derek gets the 101 here. Then we have Shat out here. I believe this is a first draft. Party till she's hot. First draft in a while. Happy to have you out. We have T-Bucks. This is, I believe, a new drafter. B-Nast, the first draft in a while. We got Mike out here, the first draft in a while. Rummy Rams in every single one of these. Vanessa, I believe this is their first draft ever out here. J-Lup, first draft ever. J.K. Ooper, a regular. Zeke, a freak. I believe this is also their first draft out here with us. So thank you so much for the regulars getting in. Thank you for the people that are always coming in and joining and trying us out for the first time. I hope that y'all are having a fun time out here. I hope y'all are enjoying the live stream. Okay. Rawsons says his team is J-Lup. Okay, so you're drafting right next to us, my dude. You're drafting right next to us. Bad news for you. I will tell you that. Bad news for you, my friend. Okay, so this is going to be a $50 fantasy draft for anybody wondering. This is a $50 fantasy draft, and let's get this going. This is going to be exciting. Davante Adams at the 104. The 109, I need to shut my mouth. We're not saying anything till we're on the clock. If it's a $10 draft, I can go out there and talk, but a $50 draft, this is serious money on the line. There's $600 in the league pot right now. So I have to make sure that we're going through and trying the best that we can. Okay, so Travis Kelce at the 106. Derrick Henry falling again. Barkley goes ahead of Derrick Henry yet again. Not something you're going to see in a regular draft. That's going to be more so a flock draft, because keep in mind, when we do these private drafts like this, the $250 leagues, those are going to be through the public. But when we do the private drafts, these are people that all have access to my rankings, all have access to my draft guide because they use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. And we are getting a gift, a straight up gift handed to us at the 109 with Ezekiel Elliott. So yeah, this is going to be an exciting draft. This is going to be an exciting draft if we get to start with an Ezekiel Elliott. No questions asked. Let's go. Let's get this going. This is going to be exciting, guys. Mike says, haven't seen SPAC in a draft since the Dobbins injury. Man, I mean, his entire 2021 draft strategy got thrown out the window with the Dobbins injury. So I'd imagine that he's trying to recalculate. He's trying to find his next J.K. Dobbins. Okay, so now we have, after this, Calvin Ridley, Aaron Jones. Okay, come on. I already kind of know what we're going to be doing with our next pick here, honestly, in the second round. Okay, so Stephon Diggs at the 112. To be honest, I'll say this right now. It's very weird in that I've been trying to zig while a lot of other people are zagging, where I know in most seasons, it's very advantageous to go double wide receiver in this range. Like if you're going to be picking at the 1-2 turn, this is about the range where you usually want to be going with the top two receivers. But I don't love that strategy, because I think my problem with like running backs in the middle around one, guys like just say Zeke, Henry, Aaron Jones, and the reason why I'm not drafting that many of them in fantasy leagues is I think they're very close to these other running backs. I don't see a massive difference in them. And that's why I've been going with like the elite receivers this year. That's why I've been taking a Davante Adams. That's why I've been taking a Tyreek Hill. And also, I don't think Adams and Hill are that close to these receivers down here. That's a big reason why we're going through and that we get the running back that we want making it back to us. So that's a big reason why, like in previous years, it's been a way better and a way smarter decision to be drafting running backs at the beginning of round one, the middle of round one, and beginning your wide receivers at the 1-2 turn. I think this season's different. I think this season, the strategy is not necessarily that clear cut, where I think the receivers that you're going to get at the 3-4 turn, I really like the receivers in that range, where I'm more so willing to double tap running back when we're picking at the end of the first, whereas in the middle of the first, I'm more willing to get like a Davante Adams. And I know that sounds completely backwards, because it is, but to be honest, guys, and I know this is blasphemous. I know so many people are going to hate me for saying this. Joe Mixon, Derrick Henry, Najee Harris, Ezekiel Elliott, Antonio Gibson, Aaron Jones, they're not that far from me this year. They're a tier down. Like I would never consider taking Joe Mixon over Derrick Henry. Of course, we would not consider that. But if we're weighing floor cases with ceilings as well, I just think that the running back tier after these top three guys, they're so much closer than we have seen in a very long time. And that's why I'm willing to, when we had the option to get like an elite receiver like a Davante Adams, I'm willing to go out there and I'm willing to get someone that we know is the clear top option at the position. Whereas in the second round, I kind of want to be drafting a running back here. Swa says, any mods know how to access the draft guide after depositing? My man, it's right there in the description of the video, like where you found the link to make that deposit on Underdog Fantasy. All you have to do is shoot me a DM on literally anywhere, Twitter, Instagram, Patreon, Discord. If you don't have social media, that's completely fine. There's a link to our fantasy football group chat where you can send me a DM directly through there. It's completely free. You don't need an email. You don't need a credit card. All you have to do is join, choose a random nickname, whatever you want to be called, and then just shoot me a DM and say, Mason, listen here, you bum. I used promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. I made a $10 deposit. I got $25 added to my account. Can I get that draft guide? And I'll send that to you ASAP. I'm going to be sending it right after the live stream tonight. I send it like every 3 hours throughout the entire day. So make sure you shoot me a DM. Also, if that's too complicated for you, the email is down there as well. You can always just email the fantasyflocknetwork@gmail.com. Just include the email that you signed up for Underdog Fantasy with. That way I can go through and I can confirm for you. Now Tyler Lockett goes there. I'm excited to see Lockett go because we get the receiver that we wanted in Cooper Kupp. Okay, so that's very exciting. So now we're going to start this draft off with Ezekiel Elliott, Jonathan Taylor, Cooper Kupp. As soon as we get the 109, I kind of know that we're going to be wanting to go running back, and then a wide receiver through here. Okay, so now after Cooper Kupp, I'm assuming that we're going to get a lot of receivers going in this range. Now, Tyreek Hill goes here, so maybe we don't get Mahomes going between our two picks. But a big thing is when we get Zeke and Taylor, we have so many guaranteed touches at the running back position. I'm honestly kind of fine just going through and instead of drafting like a James Robinson, instead of drafting like a Gus Edwards, I'm fine grabbing another receiver, knowing that receiver just gets so ugly so fast in these leagues. I know a lot of people aren't used to it, and that's why I say that if y'all want to get into a draft with me, don't just come hop in a $50 draft. Oh my God. Josh Allen at the 401. I know you're getting a stack with Stephon Diggs, but that just seems aggressive. But don't hop in like a $50 or a $250 draft with me right away. Of course, I would watch some drafts first. And also, I would definitely go out and on Underdog Fantasy, they have like $3 drafts. They have $5 drafts they can do in public lobbies that fill very fast. So go through and get in some of those drafts so you get a good feel of the format. You get a good feel of how the draft is going to flow. Because I've probably done 200 of these by now. I've probably done 200 of these. Let's pull this back up. And we're getting Mike Evans. Don't love Mike Evans. I'm always drafting Chris Godwin over him. And what's crazy is, I don't know if by the way, whenever I say the flock and stuff, I'm never referring to myself. I would never refer to myself as the flock. The reason why we're the flock is we are all a part of this channel where I always ask for your opinion, and you are a very much valued member of the community. So whenever I say the flock, I'm talking about all of us. If you're in the live chat right now, I'm talking about you as well. But I wonder if the flock is like literally driving up the ADP for Chris Godwin and down Mike Evans, because you actually used to see on Underdog Fantasy, Mike Evans consistently going like 6 to 7 picks before Chris Godwin. And I think that a lot of people in here, including myself, agree that Chris Godwin should be the guy going over Mike Evans. So earlier, like just say 3 weeks ago, you were never considering taking Chris Godwin. Unless you were myself, I love taking Chris Godwin over Mike Evans the entire offseason. But at this point, I think that it's kind of crazy that I never see Mike Evans. Even in public drafts now, I'm seeing Chris Godwin go over Mike Evans. Like, you're seeing the ADP change in real time. And I don't know if that's because all these live streams we're doing every single night and just logging in a ridiculous amount of drafts. Okay, so now you have that wide receiver run happening here. DeAndre Swift goes to the 405. Gus Edwards, we're on full-on Gus Edwards watch. Let's see where he ends up going. Let's see where Gus Edwards ends up going. Okay, Adam Thielen at the 410. Okay, so you have TB Bucks here, maybe punting the running back position. They go Adams, Waller, McLaurin, and T. Higgins. Interesting. I'll say I don't like McLaurin here. I think that we do need to be going with an Allen Robinson. Now Jerry Jeudy goes to the 412. This is tough. Derek goes 4 receivers in a row. Miles Sanders falls to the 502. Let's see if TB Bucks decides to take like a Gus Edwards, a Josh Jacobs at the 504. Maybe he just goes and gets like an Odell Beckham Jr. We have no idea here. He does have 3 receivers already, no running backs. Okay, Kyle Pitts goes to the 503. We love seeing Kyle Pitts go. Yes, we kind of want to get a tight end in this format, but at the same time, Kyle Pitts not going to be that guy that I'm shooting for. Y'all know exactly. It sucks because y'all know what I'm trying to accomplish. Like in public leagues, in public drafts, nobody knows. Like when I log in Fantasy Flock, very few people know what Fantasy Flock is. Like very, very, very few people. So we're able to accomplish a lot of what we want to do. Like we're able to get a lot of times like Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews at the 5-6 turn, where it's going to be so hard for us to pull that off in a draft like this. Now there are 1 of 3 players that I'm going to be drafting in this 5th round. Darrell Henderson falling. I actually drafted Darrell Henderson in the 6th. Earlier today. I think in the 5th, I'm still honestly not necessarily going to be going for him. Now, Rummy Rams does take a Lamar Jackson away from us. We don't have that option. Now, Mark Andrews does go. So I think just with the tight end landscape changing, I know we've been talking about this time and time again, but let's check this out real quick. Yeah, we're just going to go with the TJ Hawkinson at the 509. Yeah, I was definitely going to be planning on taking either an elite quarterback or I don't want to say an elite tight end or a very good tight end at the end of the 5th round right here. And then in the 6th, I think this is where we could possibly look at getting one of those running backs, getting a receiver if they fall to us. But I mean, TJ Hawkinson just by far and away the last guy in that tier. And I think that we definitely want to be trying to prioritize getting one of these tight ends that we can feel comfortable with after we have those injuries to Adam Trautman and Irv Smith. Gianfranco says, is this a big dog draft? No, we did a $250 buy-in big dog draft earlier in the live stream. This is a $50 draft right here, guys. And if you are just now joining the stream, if you are new to the channel, guys, we live stream real money fantasy football drafts every single night. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you want to get in these drafts with us, make sure you use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. Make it $10 deposit, get $25 added to your account. Get our 2021 fantasy football rankings. Get our 2021 fantasy football draft guide. I mean, literally hundreds of pages of information. Should be like an $80 value, and you're getting it for a $10 deposit. And you're getting to come out and do some drafts on the live stream with us. Okay, so now we have a wide receiver one, Jamar Chase, falling to the 601. We actually saw this in a couple drafts last night. We saw this in a couple drafts. It looks like maybe running backs are going to be the best available players when we're back up on the clock at the 604. So let's see, J.K. Uber, both these teams have two running backs, so maybe they don't even go running back. Okay, J.K. Uber taking it down to the last second. Is he going to time out? No, he goes Laviska Shenault at the 602. So they're continuing the receiver run here. And Antonio Brown goes. So, yeah, I mean, guess the only receiver in this range would be a Tyler Boyd. Darrell Henderson, y'all know this was someone that was very rarely drafting. I was coming out and saying that we knew someone was going to trade. I mean, we knew that the Rams were going to trade for another running back, given the fact that we looked at their history. Also, given the fact that, I mean, they had no investment outside of Darrell Henderson. Every player was like an undrafted free agent or a 7th round pick. So yeah, Henderson, I've been off of him for a very long time. We're going to get him at the 604 though. Maybe this is a sucker play. Maybe I think I'm getting value. In reality, I'm not, but let's go Darrell Henderson at the 604. Okay, John says he would not draft TJ Hawkinson. Honestly, I just kind of have to draft that tight end in this range. I would have preferred a Mark Andrews falling to us, to be honest. But I think that Hawkinson's going to be the player we're going for. I mean, I'm not taking Hawkinson over one of these receivers. Maybe if this room is just extremely wide receiver hungry, then we're going to end up regretting that selection based on what we have seen over the past few rounds. I mean, just seeing like guys like AB go over these players, very rarely are you seeing that selection. Let's pull this back over. Javonte Williams still available. You actually have Kareem Hunt falling. Okay, Javonte Williams does go at the 609. Love that pick here. And to be honest, I mean, we are overweight on running backs so far. We are underweight on receiver. I can already tell you that this is going to be a construction where we're only going to be drafting 5 running backs and 2 tight ends at the most. Now it's going to depend on if we can get away with 2 or 3 quarterbacks based on what we do in the following rounds. So hopefully we can find a quarterback that we actually like and feel comfortable rolling with as our stud QB in the 7th or the 8th. But as of now, I think we're going to have to definitely plan on rostering 9 receivers. Okay, Gianfranco says, I've been using my $25 I got from using your promo code. I got a couple pretty good teams going. Just got to watch out for that timer. LOL, it sneaks up on you. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, guys. The 30-second timer, I will say the first time I did an underdog draft, I was sitting here going, dear Lord, this is intense. I mean, just especially my first time live streaming an underdog draft, because obviously it's a lot easier to just go through and do a draft. But when you're live streaming it, when you're having to pay attention to the chat, make sure everything's running well, and also kind of talk through your picks selections out loud with your roster construction. 30-second timer, it's intense, but for our Dynasty drafts, we actually have a 60-second timer, and I did a 60-second timer on a live stream on the Dynasty channel like 2 weeks ago. And oh my gosh, I don't know if I can ever go back to a 60-second timer. I was sitting there like I felt like a crack act that I needed the pick coming up. I needed it to be moving on. So I'll say one bad thing about Underdog Fantasy, to be honest, is it will fry your brain in thinking that you need a 30-second timer every single time. Like you are going to get so used to the 30-second timer that it's going to become like second nature to you. I think it will be making you a much better drafter as well. But I mean, it's difficult. It's a lot easier for me now because we had a bunch of time. We had a bunch of drafts to get used to it. Like let me count how many drafts I've done on Underdog Fantasy. Okay. So we've done 100. This is our 156th draft on Underdog Fantasy. So yeah, we've done 156 is a lot, my dudes. We've done a ton of these. So I'm completely used to the 30-second timer at this point, but it definitely takes some time. Okay, so now let's switch this over. Juju at the 705. And we have some more running backs falling to us. This sucks, my dudes. This really sucks. Oh my God. I don't even know if we can be drafting the running backs here. Chase Edmonds goes at the 706. Damian Harris at the 707. Thank God. We kind of want to see these running backs getting drafted. And Venezia, they also have 3 running backs. Now, they did get Tyreek in the first, so they're a little better at receiver. They have a very similar build to us. They have a very similar build. They just have a slightly better receiver room. They go Justin Herbert. Oh, my gosh. Do we have to take Myles Gaskin here? I think we have to. We're taking Myles Gaskin at the 709. That is such a hard pick to make. I think knowing how running backs fell in this draft, like if we knew we were getting a Darrell Henderson in the 6th and a Myles Gaskin at the end of the 7th, I would have, instead of going with a Jonathan, actually, no, we had to go Zeke, JT. We had to go running back here as well. This has been just a wide receiver hungry room throughout the entire draft. This has been a wide receiver hungry room throughout the entire draft. You're going to see a lot of receivers going in this range as well, because now really the only running back left available is Raheem Mostert. So, dear Lord, let me know, guys. Look at this draft board. Let me know where you would have changed what we did so far. Like, what could we look at? Should we have gone with the Tyler Boyd over at Darrell Henderson? I mean, I hate being this thin at receiver with only Kupp and only Mike Evans through 7 rounds. It's going to be very hard to come back from this. But I'm going through, like, obviously you have to take Zeke at the 109. We have to take a running back here at the 204. I don't think we can take DK Metcalf over Jonathan Taylor. We get our receivers here. Maybe the play was just to go with an Odell Beckham Jr. over Hawkinson. Maybe that was the play. I don't know. Maybe we should have gone with Tyler Boyd over Darrell Henderson. But I think at this point, it's just been running back best player available. It's not great. Not great. Okay, Brandon Cooks goes to the 801. I am happy to see Raheem Mostert at the 711 because we kind of want to see these teams start drafting running backs. We're not going to be able to look at running back for a very long time, especially when we get Gaskin here. We're probably still drafting 5 running backs, to be honest, but we're probably not taking another one until like the Giovanni Bernard range. Okay, so let's switch this over real quick. So the 802, we see Michael Pittman go off the board. I see where J-Lup is up. Okay, so he has Mahomes, 2 running backs, and 4 receivers. So so he goes Waddle. I guess we get Mike Williams. Mike Williams I actually like a lot more in a best ball format because you are going to see those random spike weeks given his very high average depth of target. We are going to be sniping Vanessa here from getting the Justin Herbert and Mike Williams stack. This is another team that went very thin on receiver. They only have 2 receivers so far with Tyreek Hill and Tyler Lockett. So you know you're going to see another player get drafted right here. They take Jarvis Landry at the 805. Okay, so now Chris says, so is 35,000 subs the new goal before week 1 kickoff? How many subs are we at right now? Are like 32, I think. 35,000, that sounds like a good goal, my man. I think that we had 40,000 as our goal previously, but sadly, it looks like we may not be making that. Let me pull up how many subscribers we currently have. Yeah, so we're going to see a massive wide receiver run in the 8th round. I'm actually surprised that we get Mike Williams at the 804, to be honest. Yeah, so we have 32.6. Yeah, so I'd imagine 35, that's a good goal, my man. Let's try to get to 35,000 by the time we get to this season. Okay, now, I don't even know. You're going to see like an A.J. Dillon go off in this range. Outside of that, it's just going to be a receiver. Okay, DJ Chark goes to the 809. Very late for DJ Chark. I mean, we ended up getting him at the 812, but just seeing where he was going earlier in the offseason. Now, keep in mind, we actually had him ranked significantly ahead of this. Now, we did have to move him down given the injury to his finger, which obviously causes concern whenever he doesn't have the chemistry with a Trevor Lawrence, whenever he doesn't have the chemistry with the coaching staff and how they're going to know how to put him in an optimal spot in the game plan. So you have to move DJ Chark down. I don't know if we should be moving him this far down the rankings, though. I think that we are definitely still going to be drafting DJ Chark aggressively if he's going in this range. Like in a vacuum, like if I was only drafting one fantasy team, I probably would be going DJ Chark over Mike Williams. Now, the reason we take Mike Williams is knowing that we're going to be in like 250 drafts, so we definitely have to be making some changes in the player prototypes that we're going to be going after. Okay, A.J. Dillon going at the 812. Rondale Moore at the 901. Come on, give us some. I mean, we only have 3 wide receivers. And the thing is, I guess we're probably going to be able to get quarterbacks coming back to us as well. And we do have the potential to double tap quarterback here and then be done at QB. We could also get a tight end and be done at tight end. So I'll say we don't need a receiver with this next round. We don't need a receiver with this next round. We're not wanting a running back. We don't need it to be a receiver, though. We can go a couple different routes. And so far, if we're going to be looking at stacks for our players, we could end up going with a Matthew Stafford. That would bring in some correlation with a Cooper Kupp. It would bring in some correlation with a Darrell Henderson. We could be going with someone like a Tom Brady to come out and play with Mike Evans. So we'll see. Both of the teams before us in Rummy Rams and Venetia, they both have quarterbacks, the Lamar Jackson and Justin Herbert. So I'd imagine that we actually probably get Brady falling to us. So Robert Tonyan goes off the board. So if we wanted a tight end, we would have to, quote unquote, reach on a Noah Fant right now. When we take Hawkinson, I don't think we put ourselves in a position where we can afford to reach on a tight end. So instead, we're just going to get Tom Brady. He's going to stack with Mike Evans here. And yeah, he's going to be our quarterback 1. And I think if we get another quarterback that we can feel confident with, we are only going to have to draft 2 on this roster, and we can pull off the 9 wide receiver structure. So yeah, we're going to go with a Tom Brady here at the 909. It's Noah Fant at the 910. Zach Moss at the 911. This is the pick we want to see. Y'all know I like Zach Moss. Let me see how many teams I've drafted Zach Moss in. So I feel like it's been a ton. Oh my God. We've drafted Zach Moss in an embarrassing amount of leagues. I may have to be cutting ourselves off of Zach Moss sometime soon. We have drafted Zach Moss. Zach Moss is my... We're going by percentage draft. Zach Moss is my 3rd most drafted player right now. That is not something you want to admit. Oh my gosh, I didn't draft Zach Moss in a single league last year. I didn't draft Devin Singletary in a single league last year either. And I've been drafting a decent amount of them, both of them. Okay, so now let's switch this back over. So now with this upcoming pick, the problem is that, like, if we were playing in a league that has the fantasy football playoffs, yeah, we were going with Trey Lance every time. I don't know if we could go with Lance here when we need points the entire season. Like, what is more appealing? Going out and getting another receiver? Probably just getting another receiver in this range, to be honest. I'm kind of considering getting a quarterback and being done at the position. But no, I think we just need another receiver. So let's bring in whoever's left between Hollywood Brown and Russell Gage. J-Lup is drafting before us. He goes Kenyon Drake. Thank God. He goes Kenyon Drake. So between Marquise Brown and Russell Gage, personally, I'm going to be going with the guys that we could see more spike weeks from. I believe that's going to be a Hollywood Brown. So he's going to come in as our wide receiver 4. Our wide receiver room is extremely weak. This is our team so far at the 109. At running back, we have Zeke, Jonathan Taylor, Darrell Henderson, and Myles Gaskin. At wide receiver, we have Cooper Kupp, Mike Evans, Mike Williams, and Hollywood Brown. At tight end, we have TJ Hawkinson. And at quarterback, we have Tom Brady. Yeah. So it's surprising to see in the $250 draft, we actually had Joe Burrow going in the middle of the 8th round. How's Joe Burrow still available in the middle of the 10th? Oh, dear Lord. Yes, if you weren't here, oh my God, the $250 draft we did earlier in the live stream, it was a wild ride of emotions. Trust me on that one. It was insane. Now, Devontae Parker, Terrace Marshall. surprised to see Russell Gage still available. I think Gage actually fits this contest a lot more than he would like Best Ball Mania or the Puppy or like Big Dog, just because he is someone that I think has a pretty high floor. And yeah, Russell Gage going at the 1009. And then Melvin Gordon goes at the 1010. That's pretty far for Melvin Gordon to fall. I mean, falling behind a Kenyon Drake is a little surprising. Now, trust me, I'm someone that 100% believes Javonte Williams is going to be the starting running back halfway through the season there. But just knowing that you're getting Melvin Gordon's points at the beginning of the year does make him an appealing option in a contest like this. Yeah, that's personally just going to be how I'm viewing it. You get Mike Gesicki there. Devin Singletary at the 1101. Henry Ruggs at the 1102. Come on, we want these receivers falling to us. Honestly, I'm kind of fine with a quarterback falling as well. Or even a tight end. Mike Gesicki, after Mike Gesicki goes, I mean, I guess we look at a Jonnu Smith getting bumped up from a Mac Jones promotion to the starting quarterback. I almost said injury just because I'm used to looking at things through the adjustments we're making with injuries at this point. Henry Ruggs at the 1102. Michael Carter just falling like a rock. I don't even know if we could consider drafting Michael Carter here, to be honest. So what's nice about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is a week 9 bye. It's not really overlapping with anything else that you're seeing. So Emmanuel Sanders at the 1106. I think Tony Pollard is actually probably a better value at this point than a Michael Carter. You have Dallas Goedert at the 1107. So it's either do we reach on Jonnu Smith, Michael Carter goes. Okay, so it's either Jalen Hurts or Jonnu Smith for us. And I think if we take Jalen Hurts, we're done at the position. If we take Jonnu Smith, we're done as well. We're going to go Jalen Hurts. I mean, he is falling 20 picks beyond his ADP. He does have a different bye week than a Tom Brady, and a Jalen Hurts is the perfect example of a quarterback that you don't have to make sure you're getting a stack in with, because we know when you draft a Jalen Hurts, you're not drafting him because you think there's going to be a lot of passing volume. You're not drafting him because you think his receiving options are going to be able to take advantage. You're drafting him because of his rushing production. So yeah, let's go through and let's get Jalen Hurts at the 1109. Jamal Williams goes to the 1110. We want to see these running backs. We want to see these guys going off the board. Get Tony Pollard off after this. I mean, Tony Pollard making it to the 11-12 turn is crazy. And Rawson says, at this point of the draft, I was going Kenyon Drake with the upside I would get if Josh Jacobs were to get injured. I'm Jaleb, by the way. And yeah, my man, I know you're Jaleb, and I completely agree. I think that's one reason why Kenyon Drake is very appealing, but you can also almost say the same thing with a Melvin Gordon. If anything were to occur to Javonte Williams, I think all these running backs are kind of in that same mold where you're going to expect them to have roles in their offenses. If anything were to occur to the running back that's also in their backfield, that's when they jump up, and that's when they're very exciting. Okay, so we have Justin Fields at the 1201. Also, we're fine seeing these quarterbacks go off the board as well. I mean, when we have two quarterbacks already, we're done drafting the position. So get these QBs off. Matt Ryan. Okay, so let's see where Jaleb goes. Jaleb, I would doubt we're seeing him draft Tua Tagovailoa. I mean, he does have a Patrick Mahomes who he got in the middle of the 4th round. At running back, he has Aaron Jones. Okay. This is what we needed, boys. This is what we needed. So surprised to see Jonnu Smith fall here after Mac Jones is named the starting quarterback and they release Cam Newton. So we're going to draft Jonnu Smith, and dear Lord, this wide receiver room is going to look disgusting. This wide receiver room is horrendous. But I think we're going to be elite at quarterback. We're going to be elite at running back. We're going to be elite at tight end. And we'll piece together it at receiver with depth. We'll go through, and we're going to be able to roster 9 receivers with this build now when we can only go through and have 2 quarterbacks and 2 tight ends. Like, let's show this off real quick. At running back, we have Zeke, Jonathan Taylor, Darrell Henderson, Myles Gaskin. At receiver, we have Cooper Kupp, Mike Evans, Mike Williams, Hollywood Brown. At tight end, we have TJ Hawkinson and Jonnu Smith. And at quarterback, we have Tom Brady and Jalen Hurts. So yes, this is tough. This is, oh my God, this is going to be stressful with the wide receivers that we can find later on. And how the hell did Tony Pollard make it to the 1208, going back to back with Alexander Madison? That is the furthest that I think I've seen Tony. I've done 150 plus drafts. I think that may be the furthest I've ever seen Tony Pollard fall in terms of the wide receiver rankings. Running back rankings. We've seen the overall running back position just get completely devalued in certain drafts. But if we're talking about like him getting drafted behind Nyheim Hines, Leonard Fournette, Jamal Williams, Michael Carter, Devin Singletary, I don't know if I've ever seen him drafted behind all those running backs. And then we have Philip Lindsay at the 12-11. That's what we want to see. We're going to draft another running back on this build. Like, we're going to get one more running back and then 5 more receivers. But we want to be seeing at least these guys go off because we're fine getting a bum running back. I'm fine getting a Giovanni Bernard. Never mind. I guess, never mind. Gio's going at the 13-01 nowadays. And guys, also, we almost got... Actually, I'm not going to say that. That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. Okay, so Kirk Cousins, Rob Gronkowski, Rashad Bateman. Let's go through and let's pull this up. Okay, yeah, this is what we want to see. We want to see a lot of orange here. A lot of wide receivers that are going to be available close to the top of ADP. So we're no longer looking at quarterback. We're no longer looking at tight end. We maybe see Mike actually go with the running back here. He only has Joe Mixon and Chase Edmonds, so possibly he goes with like a J.D. McKissic. So Irv Smith goes to the 13.05. I'm going to assume that's an auto pick. And considering the fact this is a $50 draft, I'm going to be happy if we see anybody auto pick in these leagues. I mean, I think that's great for us, to be honest. Traquan Smith at 13.07. We're going to be taking someone that I probably already... Okay, no, Jalen Reagor does go. We're going to take AJ... No. We've been taking him like in every single draft tonight, it seems like, but I think we need to be moving him up. We need to be moving him up with the T.Y. Hilton injury. We're going to go Paris Campbell at the 13.09. Let's go Paris Campbell. I want to get some more exposure to Paris Campbell with that Hilton injury. And also we have the positive news of a Carson Wentz as well. Let's go through. Let's show off this team. And we're just going to go with a running back. We're going to go with a receiver on the way back as well. We're going with the receiver on the way back. Eric says, Irv Smith auto because I had to pee. My man, I am sorry to hear that. I thought that you were just bailing on the draft with us right now. Okay, AJ Green goes to the 13-10. That's the initial receiver that I thought I was going to draft. And of course, if we did not have the injury to T.Y. Hilton, we probably would have gone with an AJ Green there. But I think that we just have to be bumping up Paris Campbell. I mean, Paris Campbell's never really gotten a fair shot at the NFL so far. I think that we're probably going to be looking at him just playing, I don't want to say an every down role, but at least an every down role whenever you have T.Y. Hilton not in the game. I mean, I think that we can possibly assume that. He's going to be playing in all 3 wide receiver sets at least. We know he has the athleticism. He can be efficient. J.D. McKissic at the 14.01. Not necessarily extremely excited to draft J.D. McKissic, so I'm excited to see him go off the board. Now, there's one player that I am really hoping makes it back to us in 2 picks. I doubt it. I doubt it happens, but we're hoping for it. Okay. Don't time out here on us because I'm imagining that he's probably close to the top of ADP. Cole Kmet goes. Thank God we get Cole Kmet off the board. Done at tight end. Let's see. J-Lup on the clock. There's one player that we're looking at. Really hope. Actually, there's 2 guys. Yeah, okay. So we're going to get either a Tyrell Williams or an Amara St. Brown, given the fact that you do have Rashad Perriman getting cut, opening up a ton of opportunity in that offense. So now that we have Tyrell Williams making it back to us, this is the exact same thing we did in the last draft where we go through and we get Paris Campbell and Tyrell Williams. We're going to be doing the same thing here. So let me show the entire draft board off for anybody just now coming into the stream. And if you are just now coming into the stream, make sure you drop a like, subscribe to the channel. We live stream a real money fantasy football drafts every single night. Okay. So after this, we do have a little bit of a run on receiver. Still sucks because we want to be bringing in more receivers. We need 3 more receivers for this team. And dear Lord, I think we made a mistake. We definitely made a mistake with our selection of a TJ Hawkinson. TJ Hawkinson, we shouldn't have taken him if we were going to take a Jonnu Smith in the 12th. We should have gone with a receiver like an Odell Beckham Jr. over a TJ Hawkinson, to be honest. I think we maybe overreacted, knowing that we could get like a Cole Kmet in the 13th round. That was definitely a bad call for us to go with Hawkinson earlier in the draft. Now Winston going off the board at the 1409. We love to see that. Chuba Hubbard at the 1410. Get these running backs off. Okay, so party till she's hot. Pretty much building a team and saying if you have an injury to a CMC, he has the league winner. Obviously, that's what he is going through and accomplishing right now. Zach Wilson at the 1411. Get these quarterbacks going. Zach Ertz at the 1412. This is like best case scenario of the last 5 picks for us. Now, there have only been... It's kind of funny if you're going through and like looking at the draft board and just how it's getting painted. I mean, you just have the straight up runs happening. Like you got the wide receiver run. Then you got a little stretch of non-wide receivers. Then you got another wide receiver run. Then a stretch of non-wide receivers. It's very rare to see like them sporadic out. This is what you saw at the top of the draft as well. Like you're seeing this a massive run on receivers right here in the 8th. You're seeing a run on receivers in the 3rd. You're seeing a run on receivers right here. I mean, just seeing those stretches, trying to identify where they're going to be really sets you up if you can be like the person drafting like a Tyrell Williams at the very beginning of the stretch. I think it does make a lot of sense to just trying to get the player at the top of the tier. Ben Roethlisberger at the 1502. Perfect. We want to see those quarterbacks getting drafted. We need to see wide receivers fall into us. Party back on the clock. I'd imagine that he probably goes with a tight end possibly here. Actually, no, he took Kyle Pitts. I guess when you take Kyle Pitts, yeah, well, he still got Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry, I do think is great value, given Mac Jones just providing more overall passing yards and most likely passing touchdowns to this offense. So I think that is great with a Hunter Henry. Dymie Brown at the 1504. Okay, so let's switch this over really quick. Just running back and receiver from here. Running back and receiver. So running back, there are a couple guys that I'm fine with later on in the draft, to be honest. Probably just going to grab a receiver here. Mike already has 8 receivers on this build. He has Kelsey, he has Kyler Tua, so he's done at quarterback and tight end just like we are. I'd imagine he probably builds his team with 5 or 6 running backs, and then maybe he goes a Byron Pringle here. Mike, I don't get this. Maybe if you're building like a Best Ball Mania team or something. But no, this just when we're trying to win a 12-man league, I think you're going way too thin at running back. Okay, here we got Venezia on the clock. Not taking tight end. I guess they could go quarterback. I would be surprised though. They go to Deshaun Jackson. Okay, so we could just get an easy selection of Jamison Crowder here. We're looking for high upside receivers as well. So I think Jamison Crowder is honestly kind of the perfect guy to bring into this room because we know he is going to be running routes every single week. We know he is going to be getting targets in New York. So yeah, Jamison Crowder, the perfect option for us to get here in the 15th round. Quez Watkins, we see him go again. Can someone in the live chat, and I'm being serious, I'm going to read the live chat for like the next 30 seconds looking for a good Quez Watkins explanation. Can someone explain to me what I am missing with Quez Watkins? Can someone please explain to me why this is someone that needs to be going in this range? Because he goes here every single draft, and I just don't understand it whatsoever. Okay, Austin Hooper at the 15-11. Love this. I mean, knowing that we could have just gotten instead like... This is a mistake because I think Cole Kmet, Austin Hooper, if you combine these two guys, the production's not going to be that much different than a TJ Hawkinson versus the combination of Tyrell Williams, Jamison Crowder. That's not going to equal Odell. So we definitely made that mistake in going with the TJ Hawkinson where we did. We should have just waited and got both of these tight ends a little later on. Okay, so let's switch this back over. Rawson says Travis Fulgham being cut opens up targets for Quez Watkins, but it's going to be a low passing volume attack anyway. So like if we're going to be taking someone in that range, I think it's so boring to say because obviously they're like the exact same name, but Quez Watkins, Sammy Watkins, maybe they're like similar type players where there's speed wide receivers you're expecting maybe a spike week from, but they're both on run first offenses with run first quarterbacks. Still, I think we probably prefer Sammy Watkins, and I don't even necessarily think it's that close. Yeah. So I think we're probably just going to bring in all these wide receivers on the same range for us. Like if we're going running back receiver here, these receivers, none of them really stand out from another. So we're just going to take a Damian Williams here, knowing that he did make the roster for the Chicago Bears. He looks like he is going to be the running back too. We're going to take him as our 5th running back and then just go and draft a couple more receivers after this. Let's check out what Mike is going to do right here from the 106. This is the team that's very thin on a running back. So Rashad Penny goes to the 1606. Let's see what they decide to do. I mean, this has to be running back. Yeah, so he goes Carlos Hyde. Carlos Hyde does look like he's going to have a role. I mean, I would be very surprised if you actually have James Robinson getting as many touches as he did last year with a new coaching staff coming in that really went out there and showed that they like Carlos Hyde. I mean, they went and signed Carlos Hyde at the very beginning of free agency. It was kind of surprising to see Hyde get brought in so early. I think he's going to have a role in that offense. So Hyde, I'm completely fine with the selection in the 16th round. Okay, so Johnny arguing in the chat says Callaway's 2 touchdown catches are better than any catch Laviska has had as a pro. Callaway's taking off. Man, that sounds like the most casual fantasy football player statement I've ever heard. It's so bad to go through and rate someone based off of a few drives that you saw in a preseason versus taking a step back and looking at the overall profile, looking at the roles they're going to have in their offenses, and looking at how they should progress through the course of the season. So maybe for the first month, you have actually Marquez Callaway with more points per game than Laviska Shenault. Honestly, I wouldn't make a bet on that either. I'd still have Laviska, but maybe you make the argument. But by the time we get to the fantasy football playoffs and you actually have Michael Thomas back in that offense, Laviska's going to be crushing him. Marquez Callaway you won't be able to start Marquez Callaway on a weekly basis. Yeah, Laviska, I don't know if y'all are arguing in the chat right now, Laviska Shenault versus Marquez Callaway, but the answer is Laviska Shenault, and it's not even close. Laviska Shenault was a much more impressive player coming out of Colorado. I mean, he is a better athlete. He had a better production profile. He's someone that was very good as a rookie. Much like, what are we talking about right now? Like, let's literally pull this up. If we're pulling up Marquez Callaway right now, it's probably not the best way to look at it. Marquez Callaway stats: 21 receptions, 211 receiving yards as a rookie. Keep in mind, Laviska Shenault was a much more impressive prospect coming out as well. So you're just adding this onto it. And Laviska Shenault gets a quarterback upgrade, whereas you actually have a quarterback downgrade for Marquez Callaway. And target competition is going to be added into his offense. Laviska Shenault went over 600 receiving yards last year. He almost tripled the production of Marquez Callaway in a much worse situation. So now we're going to be switching over. We're just going to be drafting a receiver here. So let's see what wide receivers are available. We got Nico Collins, Brashad Perriman, DeMarcus, blah, blah, blah. Let's take Josh Reynolds here. Josh Reynolds has been someone I've been trying to get on more of these teams. So he's going to be our 8th receiver, and we're going to get one more receiver after Josh Reynolds. And this is one horrendous receiver core. This is like the worst receiver team I probably have ever drafted in any draft on the live stream. And this is going to be our last draft of the night, my dudes. So, of course, if you enjoyed the live stream, please go down there, drop a like on the stream, subscribe to the channel. We are doing real money fantasy football drafts every single night. And if you use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy, remember, when you use that promo code, you get $25 added to your account with a $10 deposit. When you use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy, you also actually get our 2021 Fantasy Football Draft Guide. You get our 2021 rankings. And all you need to do is make that deposit $10, promo code FLOCK in the description of the video, and shoot me a DM anywhere. It can be on Twitter, Instagram, Patreon, Discord. You can email me. My email's in the description of the video, and just send it and say, Mason, I use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. Can I get the 2021 Draft Guide? You can call me a name. You can tell me I'm stupid. I don't care. And I'll be very happy to go through and send that over to you. So make sure you go and shoot me that DM ASAP if you just use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. All you have to do is include the email that you signed up for Underdog Fantasy with. Include that email so I can go through and I can confirm that you used promo code FLOCK. Okay, so from here with our next pick, it's wide receivers is so gross in this range. Literally, I was taking John Brown earlier. We're actually going to go with a Hunter Renfrow. We're going to go Hunter Renfrow with... Okay, Derek comes out with a donation, says 101 flock. Let's hear it. Let me go through and let's check out Derek's team where he goes CMC, AJ Dillon, Devin Singletary, Ramondre Stevenson, Giovanni Bernard as your 5 running backs. You did so much better with this draft than I did in the last one. This is like something I tell myself. I literally tell myself before we start drafting, but it's hard for me to stick with it when we see a Miles Sanders available to us. I need to remember your draft here to just see what happens when you can go wide receiver straight. You get the stack with the Dak Prescott and the CeeDee Lamb. Gallup, you get a double stack here. Then you get Rondale Moore coming in, Mike Gesicki, Zach Ertz as your 2 tight ends, and Pat Freiermuth. Okay, I was going to say we would maybe like to have 3 tight ends here. I think that we would prefer Eric Ebron over Pat Freiermuth in this league where we're looking for a floor. If we were playing in like the tournament, like if we were playing a big dog, I probably want a Pat Freiermuth. But here instead, I think that we're actually just fine getting an Eric Ebron. And then Donovan Peoples-Jones, another receiver. Yeah, I think that you did so good. I think you did a much better job with the roster construction of that team than I actually did with my last 101. But yeah, thank you again, my dudes, for coming out and joining the live stream. I'll send that link out one more time for anybody to join Underdog Fantasy. And actually, Mike coming out says, how did I finish up at the 106? Let's go talk about the 106 real quick. And actually, that's going to lag out. So first off, before we get to the 106, let me send a link over to our fantasy football group chat. Guys, if you have not joined our fantasy football group chat yet, this is a completely free group chat. You don't need an email. You don't need a credit card. There are like 5,000 people in here talking fantasy football every single day. I'm not trying to get you to sign up for some mailing list. It's literally just a fantasy football group chat, 5,000 people. Join it or not. All you have to do is click the link, choose a nickname. I mean, type out your nickname, whatever you want to be called. If you don't want to be in a fantasy football group chat, ignore me. Who the hell cares? I'm sending this out just for anybody who wants to. And let's go through and let's evaluate some of the teams that ended up getting drafted in this team. First, let's check out Mike at the 106. Then let's look at the 110. Okay, so let's pull this over real quick. Okay, so the 106, Kelsey in the first. Obviously, this is somewhere I've been going consistently. Then Mixon in the second. Then getting the wide receiver value with Amari and Julio Jones. So Kyler Murray, I will say that I actually think that we want to be drafted. And I could be wrong with this, but I'm going with a Lamar Jackson over Kyler in a team that we don't get Hopkins in the second, as well as knowing that in a 4-point passing touchdown format, Lamar Jackson literally has the upside to break fantasy football. I probably would prefer Lamar just with the upside shot. You can also stack him later on with Hollywood Brown. Then you get a Sutton, like the value at receiver. Then you get Chase Edmonds as your second running back. Okay, we like that. Fuller, Marvin, Parker, Emmanuel Sanders. At this point, Emmanuel Sanders, I'm going to be honest, I understand the thought process. If we're playing in like the big dog, if we're playing in the puppy, if we're playing in Best Ball Mania, yes, you want to be just going through and shooting for as much upside as humanly possible. But I think at this point, we probably want to start looking at running backs. I honestly probably would have gone Melvin Gordon over Devontae Parker. Yeah, so I think taking an Emmanuel Sanders here as well, you're like just doubling down on this receiver run when I think you could have gone with the running back and still been fine. Then you have Tua at the 1207. James White, Christian Kirk, Byron Pringle, Carlos Hyde, Latavius Murray, and Donald Parham. I think the team's very good if it's like a Best Ball Mania, if it's a puppy draft and we're looking for an elite level ceiling. I think going this fragile at running back in this format, though, is a mistake, to be completely honest. Just because you're only playing against 11 other people, if that makes sense. And it's a best ball league as well. So you're just kind of, I don't want to say trying to stay afloat, but you're not having to shoot for as much upside. So let's go through and let's check out the 110 as well. Okay, so we have Aaron Jones, David Montgomery here with the 2 running backs. And then down a little further, Kenyon Drake, Jamal Williams, Tevin Coleman. So a 5 running back build. And I think when you get the running backs at the top, we're completely fine with a 5 running back build. Get Mahomes, and then as your other quarterback, Daniel Jones. I will say, yes, that's exactly what I'm doing. When we draft Mahomes in the 3rd or 4th, I think you have to wait until like the 17th, 18th to get like a Derek Carr, Daniel Jones, completely fine with that. Then at tight end, what ended up happening? Noah Fant, Evan Ingram. This is something I don't know a solid answer with. Like, I wish I could tell you this with confidence. I would say on a team that I'm drafting, if I am taking Noah Fant and then I'm waiting this long to get another tight end, I'm probably drafting 3 tight ends. I'm probably drafting 3 tight ends with this build. I can't say it's 100% correct. That's personally how I would go through and build. Now you have Hopkins, Odell, Antonio Brown, Darnell Mooney, Jalen Waddle, Sterling Shepard, AJ Green, Quez Watkins. Yeah, I think what we probably would do instead is instead of Nico Collins here, I'd probably go Donald Parham. I would go with the tight end in the 18th round. That's what I would have switched up. Outside of that, I really do like the team. And yeah, Okay, so now that's going to be it for the live stream. Thank you, my dudes, for coming out. Really hope y'all enjoyed the stream. Use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. Drop a like, subscribe to the channel. I'll see y'all on the live stream tomorrow night.